I made it. Got new coffee. Filled up with a bit more of these, homemade carbonated lemonade stuff. Hi. Now this is for replay crew. Hi, welcome. Heyo. And reminder that like, subscribe, become a member, so you can get members only stuff in the channel, and you can press the link in there's a link to Discord on my channel as well. Grass, you didn't fall in. No, I avoided to fall in. And at least half of you that were on the previous stream has joined here. So I saw that when I end broadcast on the chat window, it should always say, now you're being redirected here. And I actually thought I had redirected you to this stream, but as it appears, I hadn't. So hopefully most of the previous audience find themselves back here. And I see that Lefty is here, Wolfram, David. Stuff here. And I saw that on the previous chat. Will this be a marathon? Yes. We will do the rest of the day 5 before I end this. And that is roughly for the Law and Seaward stream is 4.5 hours. Remove 1 hour of lunch, 3.5 hours. And in 1.25, then we should be done in roughly 3 hours. Does the day end there? No. After this, it will be a Rumble only stream. It's Serial Killer Sunday. Now, the reason why it's Rumble only is because YouTube has decided that they don't like serial killers anymore, streamers. That despite this trial has been covered a few times over the years by streamers, by videos, for as long I can see stuff 12, 13, 14, 15, at least a decade back, without age restrictions. But all of a sudden, this guy, according to YNT staff, this guy we need to punish. So sadly, that will be a Rumble only stream. And Serial Killer Sunday hasn't been yeeted by YouTube, but in order to remove one area of stuff that YouTube doesn't like about this channel, I have to need to remove one part to save the rest. So we still have trial coverage, Jodi Arias coverage, but serial killers is Rumble only. Sadly, because I believe of all the crap that's on YouTube about that trial, you kind of need someone with an actual law degree to explain things. That's my point of view. Yeah, that's just it. Well, welcome back, everybody. I see the watch count is increasing. Let's see here. We ended there. Hopefully, we can get through the rest of this without it having to buffer. That's my hope. And maybe it's you don't have enough RAM, REM, enough memory, blah blah blah. That's on StreamYard. My PC has, I believe it has 16 gigs. Is it enough for everything? No, but it is enough for streaming. I will give you a link to my Rumble channel. I do think you can watch this without having an account. I'm not sure. Let's see here. Dun, dun, dun. This is my channel on Rumble. So you can go there and see if you can watch, because I have an intro to that stream. So go over there and see if you can get it started. If you can, then you should be able to see it. You can watch without an account. Yeah, because I haven't locked it down. I don't demand memberships there to watch it. I just need the numbers. Now, you have to have an account to actually follow me, but that's your choice. I don't force you to do anything. But thank you so much, Melissa. I really enjoy doing Serial Killer Sundays as well. But as long as YouTube tries to... They are demonetizing my streams and videos. That's it. And yeah, so I rather have... I don't make any money on Rumble either, but at least I can build up an audience there to later. Just in case YouTube decides to... But I don't know why. I'm a union rep. They should love me. I'm a lefty. Hello, woke union rep. Everything I do should be allowed and rewarded. But no, I don't talk about woke stuff. I talk about facts. And you can't have that here. Yeah, enough whining from me. Yeah. Yeah, same on my smart TV. I can't get a Rumble app on that. But the more people on Rumble, the higher the chance is that an app will eventually work on your TV set. What you can do if you have a laptop is to connect your laptop to your smart TV and share screen. Then you can watch on your TV, I believe. No, no, I can only prepare one stream at a time on Rumble. So I can't, as I've done here with YouTube, I can't put up 2, 3, 4, 5. I can only do one via StreamYard. And so that's why this isn't on Rumble. These streams I will download and upload on Rumble later. Well, depends on who you're asking. I'm a union rep, but I'm not particularly liked by other union reps because I refuse to be a socialist because I have a brain. Okay, but you are here to watch this trial. And yeah, let's get on with it.
Well, what physically occurs during canvas?
Let's go back a few seconds so we remember what's going on.
It gives me intelligence. It gives me an aspect of your identity. It shows me what...
A canvas does not give you intelligence, or you may not be meaning that way.
What's immediately around you. Specifically for Alissa, I know that with 8 years having passed, if she had any peers in that neighborhood, they've likely moved on. They've gone to college, they've gotten jobs, they've moved out, they started families on their own. But their parents may be there still. So I'm trying to determine people that may have known her, may have seen her, may have some intelligence about her.
Well, what physically occurs during a canvas? How does that occur? Is this electronic, a courtesy call? How you doing? Is there more than that?
Old school, door to door, knocking on your door, introducing myself, showing you a flyer, and asking you a preset number of questions. Did you live here in 2001? Do you recognize this child? Do you know the family that lives at this address? Did you know them when they lived at this address? Do you have anybody in your family that's within her age range? Again, I'm looking to get as complete a picture of who she was and who she interacted with.
Out of curiosity, do you?
Yeah. If we, I don't want to talk politics, but when you hear me say I'm liberal, I'm not talking USA liberal. I'm talking 1800s classical liberal fighting for rights, equal rights. Not, oh, have you been wrongly in the past, but now you have equal rights. Okay, now we're done. That kind of liberal. Just saying. I might do something on Rumble because yeah, maybe. We'll see.
Do you tend to get more responses when you are dealing with individuals face to face, or through like electronic means?
Electronic means is the most common way to reach out to somebody. It's easy for me to contact you, tell you who I am, solicit some sort of information from you. But again, I'm always going to want to see you face to face. I'm going to want to look in your eyes. I'm going to want to evaluate your responses to me. My job isn't just writing down what you say. I've got to believe it. I've got to see if there's something that doesn't make sense. Are you telling me something that you could not have possibly witnessed? Is it something that you heard somewhere else? Is it a story that you're simply passing off as your own, or did you know this child?
All right, so we talked about a canvas, and you noted that that it's possible after the passage of time for people to have left the area. Was that correct?
That is correct.
Are you able to account for people leaving the area if the need arises to follow up with those individuals?
Certainly. TransUnion, Accurant, there are a number of resources available to law enforcement, even up above and beyond our records management system, where I can inquire your address, I can inquire partial names, I can inquire your social security number, your date of birth. I can go through the postal inspector, and the postal inspector keeps very articulate records of who lived here, between what dates, what persons received mail there, whether they're on a lease or not. There's a wealth of information out there. There's actually a number of cottage industries that function solely to provide law enforcement with information.
All right, when you are searching for an individual, do you consider medical possibilities that have afflicted them and caused the problem?
Yes. I mean, the most obvious ones are the people that are infirm. There's some sort of medication needed, or they have a condition where if they do not have appropriate protection from the weather, or if they do not have medication, they're going to fail to thrive, possibly endanger their lives. That's critical information. So
if I'm walking out in the heat today, it's 110 degrees out, I faint, pass out, I'm unconscious, maybe even in a coma, am I a person that could still be located?
Yes, absolutely.
Do you, Detective Summershoot talked a little bit about what the process is like if a body is identified in a location and trying to make a comparison. I guess my question for you is that only a local situation, or is there a national ability to do that?
Yes, the proper title for my time in the missing persons unit is missing and unidentified persons. There's two sides to that coin. We have people that go missing. We have human remains that are found in whatever condition, whether it's a recent decomp, whether it's a recent person who has died. I've evaluated people who are being kept alive on ventilators, but were functionally brain dead. My job is both of those aspects. It's identifying the unidentified person, identifying the human remains, and making the connection to where they're missing. For any unidentified human remains, it's assumed that there's a missing persons report out there. We simply need to obtain the biographical information to knit those two together.
I believe they note, Detective Summershoot noted DNA.
Yes, CODIS.
And was DNA collected in this case to use to identify a body if you ever found Alissa Turney?
Yes, the initial collection was done before my time. It was done by those investigators in the past. That they contacted Sarah Turney and John Turney. They are both biologically related to Alissa. It's a maternal, so it's the mitochondrial DNA. Once I got there, we reached out to her biological father, Stephen Strom. He was kind enough to come to Arizona, speak to us, and provided his DNA sample so that we have both portions of Alissa, the mitochondrial and the Y-star DNA. That fleshes out a very strong identifiable pattern for CODIS entry and for University of North Texas databases.
If you do not have, if you're not fortunate enough to be able to have a DNA source for an individual, are there still methods for you to identify a body?
Absolutely. The strongest method outside of DNA is going to be your dentition. It's going to be your teeth. Teeth are as independent or as individual as your fingerprints, especially if you've had any.
They are only alluding, this is what we're looking for, this and this and this and that. But there's nothing, you know this. This is how we do our job. This is how we find people, which is decent. But in this case, the only question should be, what have you found? Nothing. And then the defense, who initiated everything in this case? Well, the dad did. Okay.
Sort of work done. Dentists are meticulous in identifying where they have put fillings into your teeth, what surface they're on. X-rays can be laid over the top of the X-rays of human remains again, and you can make very strong comparisons and matches to that. I've used dental records to match a number of unidentified human remains to missing persons.
Thank you. Your Honor, is this a good point to break for the morning?
Sure, ladies and gentlemen, we're right at our lunch hour. I'll ask you to be back in the jury room at 1:30. You can leave everything in the courtroom if you'd like. Please remember the admonition. Have a nice lunch. Jury is now excused.
And they are standing up, waiting, and then we will see if anyone there has anything to say.
Sure. Let the record reflect the presence of counsel and the defendant. The jury is not present. Anything for the record from the state? Anything for the record from the defense? All right. We did get 4 juror questions during that session, which I've numbered as 3, 4, 5, and 6, and we'll file with the clerk. Question 3, there were no objections by either party, and the court read the questions in their entirety. Question 4, neither side had any objection. The court read the question in its entirety. Question 5, neither side had any objection, and the court read the question in its entirety. Question 6 had multiple questions that the parties agreed would best be asked of Detective Anderson rather than Detective Summershoe. Is there anything the state wanted to add to the record regarding the juror questions? Anything the defense wanted to add to the record?
No, Your Honor.
All right, we are adjourned. We'll see you at 1:30.
Okay, that's...
We're off the record.
Which leaves me no alternatives to any of all this bullshit, Mike, and I'm exhausted, man.
Okay, so they will be, of what I heard, this is some phone call they are going to allude to. If it's admissible, if it should be cut up in pieces or something. Yeah, let's go on. See what's going on. Oh, come on. Yeah, and if you want to become a member, it's $3 a month, and you have, it's the join button below the screen.
What are they with fucking people that they just want to But you just watch her by a big mouth. Which leaves me no alternative to any of all this bullshit, Mike. And I'm exhausted. I don't want to be involved in this kind of shit. This is forcing me to live like my fucking.
Okay, that wasn't supposed to be transferred out to the audience. Come on. Hello, Stumpy. I gave 3 options to the members. The first one was $100 to Zach, $20 to me gives a shot. The other one was $100 to Zach, $33 to me gives a shot. And the third option was $150 to Zach and $50 to me gives a shot. Now, if this doesn't do well on the 28th, then I will see what happens. But I also have to think about my survival. So, if 150 to 50 doesn't work well, a month later or something, there will be a new fundraiser and we will see what we will do then. You can argue with David because he is the one who it was a 2-vote margin between option 1 and option 3. So if David had voted differently, then it would have been a draw, and then I would have done a new vote among members, and the result might have been different. Jesus Christ, come on. Yeah, the vote ended Friday. I had it up for a week on my channel.
Working, just leave it where it is.
But I would say, can we please put up the thing where it shows it at least instead of things that say Turney in the background?
Sure.
Just put up the.
Yep.
Put the column.
Put the collar on? Who's the next witness if they need a collar? Jesus Christ.
Bring the jury. Or we bring the jury in.
Let me see.
Oh, Judge, I had a, I guess that's fine. I think
We're off the record.
that's fine. I think
I want to hear that. Yeah, if I went to the United States and was charged for anything, I'd also want a jury of my peers. Big Vikings. Try to get me convicted along my peers. I have not have a time set for Chatfaced for charity. I have the date, but the time has a bit to do with when can guests start to arrive. When it is a Friday, I need to think about, will people watch from work? Then they might not be able to participate much. So it will probably be something of the sorts when it's around 6 o'clock Eastern time, which is 5 o'clock Central time and stuff like that. So something of that sort.
Please be seated. We are back on the record in State versus Turney. Let the record show the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Detective Anderson is back on the witness stand. Mr. Bailey, you may resume your direct examination of the witness whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Judge. I believe we left off where you were discussing various ways to identify a body where you do not have DNA to
Which has
utilize.
nothing to
be
do
clear,
with this
if you
case.
have DNA,
because
do you
there
still
is
utilize those
no
other methods if
body.
possible?
Absolutely. Any approachable avenue for identification, depending on the timing when we recover the body. And when I say body, sometimes it's a full body, sometimes it's partial body, sometimes it is skeletal remains. We've identified people based on partial skull cap recoveries. If I have a full body, we do scars, marks, tattoos. We've done medical implants for people that have pacemakers. We've identified two persons who died in a plane crash based on breast augmentations that survived the crash and a wrist augmentation, metal grafting
nothing to do
hold
with
together
this
bones of the
trial.
wrist.
All right, so Detective Summershoe, I believe, noted that there was some searches that were completed at residences where the defendant was living.
Yes, her address at the time that she was identified as a missing person, missing juvenile, runaway juvenile, was 17217 North 34th Street, roughly 34th Street in Bell.
And where were they living when you did the search of the residence?
Directly across the street, 17218 North 34th Street.
During that search, did you recover audio tapes?
Yes, a number of audio tapes in the neighborhood, 400 to 500 tapes.
Yeah, let's punish the guy for keeping good records.
Number 37, Judge.
You may.
I have to remember I am only 30 minutes in this stream, so I can
Specifically, this has an impound date of 12/12 of 2008. The DR number, departmental report number 2001-109-22334. That's for this incident. The invoice number, which is also matched to a barcode, 3754832-0425, originally identified as item 425. The item number, when we perform a search of a home, we divide the home into different sections. The master bedroom will be 100, another bedroom will be 200, living room will be 300, garage will be 400, and so forth. That way we can always tell where that item came from. So this is the 25th item from room 400. The final piece of information is my name, my signature, and my serial number, 7232. The description as entered is 19 audio cassette tapes found bottom drawer of, and then it cuts off because we don't have the space for
as
more
long as
information.
it's not
Right,
in
I
a cellar
wasn't
in
intending to get into
Austria.
that here, but that's a good piece of information. How do you ensure that the evidence that Phoenix PD collects at any scene, not just the search that we're doing here, but any scene, is the evidence that you impound and can determine that later?
It requires diligence. We'll assign a single officer for oversight of the home. That person is responsible for bagging.
One thing I have yet heard or seen, have there been to the aunt's house to search for evidence? Even if she is passed away, there are new owners. Were they ever there to look for her? Actually looked, tested, anything?
And tagging items as they're identified. Beyond that, we also have crime scene technicians that take overall scene photographs to show entry, the condition of the location at the time we enter. They do their best to take pictures of items of interest as they're found. With as many people as we have inside this home at the time, obviously they're not going to get to every individual item. And finally, you have the impound officer, the person whose signature is on here, is responsible for sealing this item. In addition to the seal, it'll also have my name and my initials and my serial number, marking that it's a enclosed document.
This is only important if they have evidence. That's it. Then you can explain the procedures. Now it's just it's word salad. It's if they had evidence, you present the foundation, you present the evidence. You don't have to explain every part of your job if you never found a physical. Jesus Christ.
Has not been molested by anybody else. From that, we have a property custodian that removes the items, takes them down to our property annex. For this particular investigation, Detective Summershoe and myself committed, I believe, 2 weeks to cataloging and itemizing and entering all of this into our system.
So you said that there's unique identifiers. Is that an actual number that's a unique number assigned for that item number, for that, sorry, that piece of evidence?
Yes, for this package, it has that one barcode number that I read to you, and I won't bother you with again. There are other things to notice. This is a large volume of content. This is 19 audio tapes. If during the review of those items, if I found something that was of unique value, unique importance, something that I wanted to identify on its own, I would remove it from this package, create a new invoice number that would be something akin of 425A. If I found a second item, it'd be 425.
David, are you using voice to text again?
425C, and so on, so that we can always reassociate that to the parent, to the room where we physically recovered the item.
And so you sub-itemize individual pieces of evidence if you believe it has some value.
Yes.
And can you utilize that barcode to also track that piece of evidence as well?
Yes, property custodians can tell you where it is at any one time.
Right. You said those are a number of audio cassette tapes.
Yes.
Do you recall how many audio cassette tapes you recovered during your searches of the residence?
Again, based upon the entire volume, I cannot tell you it's exactly 432. It is somewhere between 400 to 500 items.
And did the Phoenix Police Department, you and other officers, assistants with the officers, review all of those audio cassettes?
Every audio cassette, every micro cassette, every 3x5 floppy disk drive, if you remember those. VHS tapes, we developed all the film, everything we could.
Since you were not able to ascertain how many cassettes, other than maybe 400 to 500, you said?
Yes, that's a rough estimate. I've never spent the time to go in and individually itemize them to get the exact total. There's a possibility for redundancy. There are 19 in this package, so I would read 19 items impounded, but then a supplement later on is going to be based on one of the items I pulled out of there, so I run the risk of recounting that and inflating the number.
So I suspect you could not give an estimate or amount of hours that are actually reviewed.
The tapes are typically 60 to 90 minutes. If it were a straightforward playthrough one time, it would be 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the tape. That is not practical for anything that has any sort of communication, especially for the call records that we have, the incoming and outgoing calls to the home. That greatly slows down your process. And it also complicates the matter. And Detective Summershoe and myself are familiar enough with the persons inside this home that we can make reasonable assumptions as to who's speaking. Civilian volunteers, other detectives, one step removed from the investigation, do not have that luxury. So they would review a tape. If there was some concerning statement or something they thought was valuable, they would provide it to us and we would again listen to it.
Okay. So
only, okay, so say, oh, I'm a civilian, I can listen to this. They they sit in a room with 5 tapes, walk out 8 hours later with pay. It's nothing on it, and never listen to it. Prove that had fuck.
Well,
fork. I said fork,
So,
nothing else.
just to be
Fork.
clear, every audio cassette tape was reviewed by someone at Phoenix Police Department.
Yes.
Okay. May I approach the witness?
You may. You may. You may.
Your exhibit number 32, can you tell us what this item is?
Again, this has an impound date of 9/25 of 2008, so it is prior to the service of the search warrant to the residences. It's again for the same incident, 2001, 109, 22334. This is a unique item, so it is impounded as item number 1. It's the loan item on this particular invoice. Again, my name is present. My serial number is present. It was assigned the unique barcode of 3755695, item 0001.
Unless
It's described as a VHS tape, which is labeled.
Unless it's evidence, then you provide the foundation for that specific evidence. This is just word salad.
5/6 of 2001, Alissa and John. Within the package is a Scotch brand video cassette sleeve. Inside is a TDK marked videotape that has a white
that's
affixed
one
label
piece
with
of
black
evidence.
lettering that reads
Which
5/6 of 2001,
already been-
Alissa and John Lackman, or possibly Lackmar.
And I forgot, do you want me to ask the sham judge?
No, as long as you've done it once with each witness, you don't have to ask again.
I'm approaching the witness with number 123.
Talking to the microphone, young prosecutor.
Yes, this is an image of the very same video
Hey!
cassette outside of the packaging.
Hold on. Does that prosecutor remind you of a very tall law tuber? Anyone? Who lives in Korea? Anyone? Is it just me? No. No, not legal vices. The other one. Yeah, Andrew. No. Okay, no. Not even close. Yeah, it's Legal Mindset's dad. Definitely not Attorney Tom. Oh, Mindset is in Thailand. Okay. But we can taunt him. Say that. Hey, did you just prosecute a weird trial in Arizona? Yeah, no, it's not Attorney Tom. Attorney Tom would have been just around here. You would have only seen his head.
Yes, this is an image of the very same video cassette outside of the packaging.
All right.
Yeah, I also thought he was in Seoul.
To admit exhibit number 123 only.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 123 is admitted.
We're going to circle back around this in a moment.
Okay, he just moved to Thailand. Okay, I didn't know that.
You may.
My fault, I caught Angela off guard. All right, so what are we looking at in this first photo?
That is a top-down view of that VHS cassette. That's
Alright.
the sleeve encompassing the VHS.
All right, and then the second photo, what do we see here?
That is the side view of the cassette within the sleeve. That is the label that's been affixed to it.
I guess I need to ask this question. I didn't think I would, but what is a VHS cassette tape?
Back in the good old days, before digital media, you would have to record items onto an actual taped version. I don't even know if I have the technical acumen to explain it. It's a
Magnetic.
recording device. It holds media.
All right, so essentially like a CD or something, you would put this in a VHS player and it would play.
Yes, it plays in one direction. It unspools like a cassette tape.
And do you know approximately how many hours of footage one of these contains? Or I guess a better question is, did you review a number of these VHS tapes from the defendant's residence?
I did. The unique thing about VHS tapes is you can purchase commercial VHS tapes that have your favorite movie, whatever you like, and you can alter the tape in such a way that you can record over the top of it. Given that scenario, I was compelled, I thought it was justified to take all of the VHS content that I came across, whether it was commercially marked or not, for the possibility that it could contain additional content.
All right. And can you tell us approximately how many VHS tapes you recovered?
Again, near 500.
And to be clear, we're talking about the residence at 17218 34th Street.
All items that were impounded from the search warrant were from the 17218, where the family being Sarah and Michael Roy Turney, was currently living. It is not a location where Alissa had lived. It is simply where the family had relocated to.
And was that because there was someone else living at 17217?
Yes, there were renters at 17217 North 34th Street that were kind enough to vacate the residence and let us dismantle it.
Never. So you were able to go over there and at least do some search of that house?
Yes, interior, exterior, again, it was photographed as is our custom. That scene was also perceived as a potential crime scene. So I brought in our command staff, brought in our homicide unit.
David, you're a lawyer. Yeah. In your mind, you have an extremely healthy sense of yourself. Others might disagree. I don't know. You have a Swedish wife, so apparently you did something right.
To process that one specifically, the luminol process was used. We did have cadaver dogs. They were deployed on both residences.
And they found
So we said
nothing.
Again, 500 VHS tapes recovered. There's approximately 500 VHS tapes recovered.
Yes, and again, I've not expended the time to get a precise recording. I just ensured that every single package was touched by a detective or one of our volunteers.
Here's the thing: if blood, anything has seeped down to below under the carpets, it will show years later. Many years later, because if it's carpet on concrete, that blood or cleaning agents will seep and be absorbed by the actual concrete, and that will show at least blood with luminol. And they found nothing.
Staff to ensure that nothing was left behind or forgotten or overlooked.
And do you know how many hours approximately were on the tapes, approximately, that you reviewed, starting with individual tape?
Individual tapes are typically 2-hour run lengths. There are some that can be extended out to 8-hour lengths.
Yeah. And if I answer a question a bit snarky, it's not because of you, it's because of this person who I need to wait an hour and 15 minutes before calling him what I want.
Those were very rare. So I'd say on average 2.5, 3 hours per tape. Do the math on that, 1,500.
So we're looking at approximately, at the max, the time could be 8 hours.
Yes, and admittedly on those tapes, it was permissible. I encouraged people to run them at a higher speed. Just if you're looking at Planet of the Apes, you don't need to watch it frame by frame. You can watch that at 2 times the speed to get.
Excuse me? Well, I know you can speed up tapes until something interesting happens. But if it's an old VHS tape, that can be disastrous. And you do that with civilian volunteers or something?
Through it.
All right. So all tapes, whether they appeared commercial or otherwise, were reviewed as well?
All tapes that were commercial in appearance, all tapes that were identified as family videos, and all tapes that were unmarked.
And I guess I should be more precise when I say all tapes. I'm specifically referring to VHS tapes at this time.
VHS tapes. We also recovered smaller cassette tapes, 8mm tapes, and there was actually some spool film as well.
So anything that could potentially store media, audio, video was reviewed?
Yes, that was one of the primary concerns established in the search warrant, was the recovery.
I believe the shelf life of VHS tapes, they deteriorate by 50% in 10 years. Something of the sort, if I remember correctly. At least that is what the guarantee is. Now, my sister recovered a recording, one of the last recordings from when my mother was healthy. And, well, healthy enough at least. And that we have recovered so we could digitalize it. And but it was bad quality, so we had it sent off to have it digitally enhanced, and it was still bad quality. Yeah. So even in 2008, that would have been bad quality.
Of security camera footage and recovery of audio cassette tapes that were used to record incoming and outgoing phone calls.
I'm approaching the witness with exhibits number.
I hope you're sarcastic, because I have not even from rumor I have heard of this. And if it exists, it's definitely not admitted here. At least not yet.
31, 32, and 122.
Talking to the microphone, you
Exhibit number 32 is what it was, but could you provide us, would you let us know if it has a label affixed to it?
It does have a label affixed to it. You're talking about specifically the VHS tape, the white label with the black lettering, 5601, Alissa and John Lackman.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
And you have, I'm handing you exhibit number 31. Can you tell us what that is?
This is another VHS tape. This one is not in the sleeve. The impound notation on this is 12/12 of 2008. That was the second day of the search warrant. For
Yeah, no matter how you count it, if any one of those were below were minors, then he would have been charged for that, and he hasn't. Not to my knowledge, at least.
these two locations. Again, the DR number remains the same. It always will. This is identified as item 429, suggesting that it was recovered from 400, whichever room that was. My personal signature and serial number, my badge number is on it. This is identified as item 3754832, number 0429. The description on this one is Alissa John 5/6 of 2001, found in DVD VHS storage unit.
Found them or kept them? Just asking questions.
I'm going to reapproach with exhibits number 122 and 123. Exhibit number 123 has already been omitted. And can you tell us what exhibit number 122 is?
122 is photographs taken by our crime scene technician on the scene of this very VHS tape.
All right. So when you say of this very VHS tape,
This
what exhibit item are
testimony
you
is so
I'm referring to
uninteresting.
exhibit item 31.
and I'm going to hand you exhibit number 123. Does
Yes.
that exhibit correspond with the other video cassette that you have?
Yes, exhibit 123 is the exterior VHS photo with the sleeve. The side-on one showing the 5/6 of 01 Alissa John Lackman, and that matches this Scotch marked VHS
Thank you,
sleeve,
Jenny Graham.
which is identified as item number 32.
All right. Your Honor, the state would move to admit exhibit number 122 at this time.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 122 is admitted.
And permission to publish?
You may.
123, Your Honor.
You may.
Thank you. So I'm turning back to exhibit number 123.
That is the one that was recovered on 9/28 of 08.
All right. And this is the labeling that was.
Yeah, this is the thing. If this is something you have heard from her podcast, we have to entertain the thought that is made up. I don't like it. I honestly don't like it, but we have to entertain the thought, because if there is actual minors with showing parts on a video, why isn't the father charged with that? Not even in this trial. and has never been charged, not even in the conviction in 2010. They had if they had those tapes back in 2008, 2009, why wasn't he charged? We have to entertain that thought. I don't like it. I don't like it any more than, because if there is such tapes, charge him with that, convict him of that. And they should have, if they existed. Oh, yeah.
The fix to it.
That is correct. 5/6 of 2001, Alissa and John Lackman.
All right. When you can you verify the accuracy of that information on there?
No.
The date that's been affixed, that has been placed on that. Is there a mechanism on the VHS that allows you to correspond those two dates?
No, there's no recording. There's no time stamp or date stamp affixed to any of the VHS tapes.
So could I put trip to Florida and it could be something completely different on it?
Absolutely.
Well, is it?
All right, I'm turning to exhibit number 122.
No, worse.
Since we have not seen one of these before, what is this yellow piece of plastic that's in the upper left corner?
That is an item marker. It's used by
Okay.
crime scene technicians to
Sorry.
orient the direction and give you an estimate of the size of an object.
And in case you have not said this already, when you went to this residence to do a search of the premises, do you have individuals that are there to assist you during that search?
I do.
And are one of those individuals, their job title, a crime scene technician?
Crime scene response specialist, crime scene technician, yes.
What is their role in the investigation?
Overall documentation. As I mentioned, they take photographs of everything, digital photographs showing the layout, the condition of the home before detectives enter. You'll have special assignments units, SWAT officers that will ensure that the home is not occupied and that it is safe for them to enter. At that point, the first person on scene is going to be that crime scene technician documenting the condition of the home as police arrived. It's done for obvious documentation purposes. It's also done to prevent us from being accused of damaging items.
All right, and turning to the second page on exhibit number 122, zoom in, what do we see here?
What I see is 5/16 of 01, Alissa John, which is slightly different than how it was impounded.
All right, so when you say 5/16, are you referring to this portion of the date right here?
Yes.
And is there something that appears to be in that area?
I'm sorry, I did not understand that, Mr. Bailey.
Probably a poor question. Did it appear that there was potentially some kind of substance on that, such as whiteout?
Yes, it very much appears that it's been written onto multiple times. It has been written over multiple times.
This
There may
testimony
appear to
is
be a whiteout or some
worthless.
similar substance applied, and then another date attached to the top.
Seriously, what's
Alright, so
going
was
on here?
This tape, did it have?
This is just
the
prolonging
was there a
everything.
duplicate incident where
They
the
already
Alissa
been through
and John
this.
Lackman dispute fight?
Jesus.
There's a duplicate of that captured incident. Yes.
All right, and were you provided with a copy prior to the search?
Yes, that's the 9/28/08, the item that's in the sleeve.
So turning back to exhibit number 123,
And yes, if you want to join in cheers and coffee with this mug, there's a link in the description below.
was this the item that was provided to you prior to the search?
Yes.
And that was reviewed
Yes, it was.
prior to the search?
Yes.
And then this was a second copy of that was obtained during the search?
Yes, the second copy was found inside the home during the search. 17218 North 34th Street.
Yay.
We talked a little bit about the defendant. Can you take a
They did talk about, on the previous stream, they did talk a bit about playing something. And please, dear Lord, make it something admissible where he admits to everything. Because if it's just a random phone call between Alissa and her aunt. The absolute worst the worst thing he says is, she says, the aunt, about the boyfriend. Oh, he's black. If that's it, what do you think, David?
I think there's absolutely nothing to connect this guy to even a crime having committed or been committed.
Yeah. And if
That's not-
everything this guy is here
Well,
for is
the context of some of these videotapes, but none of that has been admitted.
no. And as Soul Souffle told earlier about the peer, somewhere there is tape of knocked out girls with parts showing. If they are minors, I don't know the rules of CP in Arizona, but if they are 17, 16, 15, why aren't he charged for that? If they
Right?
found
Yeah, I
those
mean, he
tapes.
would have been charged if they had that. They would have charged him, even if they had a suspicion of it.
Yeah.
They would have charged him. I mean, they're charging him with this 23 years after the fact. So
Yeah. So we just have to entertain the thought that simply wasn't true.
I'm not even sure it wasn't a hit for hire. DA Val says, I agree.
Yeah. There
Could
are
be anything.
Yeah. For instance, you have two guys in her life who have testified. One that by testimony, which the previous guy tried to allude to, well, that was the letters. Oh, but the defendant made them write these letters. Yeah, but did any one of these people tell the cops that the defendant made me write that I think that I saw bruise marks on her? Did any one of them say that? No.
Nope. What I came into this case with is there was a lot of rumor, speculation, and essentially made up storytelling on a podcast that led to this guy being charged, and that is all they have. Made up stories on a podcast. And the evidence is not really changing my mind.
And the absolutely most damning is that they have started to alluding to the contract being, Alissa said, my father has not SA'd my sister or me. But that allegation can get people convicted.
Yeah. I mean, the allegation can, and that's why the allegation is defamation per se.
Yeah. And that's it. As far as I can see in this trial is old, creepy. He was creepy then. He paranoid, recording everything. Then he didn't keep the date of a disappearance. But if I were a defense attorney in closing or something, I would say he have watched that tape for years without the cops doing anything. Eventually, he snapped.
Perhaps. But
yeah,
I don't know. Just there's nothing to connect. There's nothing even to suggest that a crime happened, and there's nothing to connect this defendant to. No matter what they do, they can throw all kinds of, it could have been this, it could have been that. But at the end of the day, it's always it could have been. Who knows?
Yeah.
It could have been something completely different. It could have been a hit job, like who was in the chat. DA says.
And so far, I have not seen any evidence of any cops going to California to the aunt's old house to look for evidence. I don't remember when she passed away, but sure as hell in 2008, 2009, it was closer in time than now.
I like the idea of in 2007, they started canvassing the neighborhood 6 years after the fact or whatever, 7 years after the fact. What are you canvassing the neighborhood for? What are you going to find? I mean, they probably dug up and repaved those roads 3 times over in 6 years, whatever. I don't know.
And we brought those dogs over. Yeah, but they didn't mark anything. And if there was blood or anything that seeped through the carpet, even if that would show on the concrete. I mean, but here's the deal, and I said this quite early. The reason they are charging him is because it's the last chance to charge him. He's old, he's sick, he's fragile, he can kick the bucket any day. So they are throwing everything on him. I don't know what they did to the grand jury to make them accept the charges, but yes, let's go Brandon, member for 2 months. And Niklas was bragging about his trial selection. Yeah. I believe that
This is still an interesting trial, though. It's better than the
Yeah.
Texas v. Ronald River case that I had.
Yeah. It's interesting to see exactly how little and the prosecution still moves forward in the hope that the allegations of SA will convict him of second-degree murder.
But they can't even get those in.
Yeah, but now the defense has alluded to it via the contract.
Why?
Which is stupid.
Why would they open the door to that?
I
didn't
don't
hear
know.
that.
Previous guy on cross-examination.
Fun.
Yeah. So they gave him the contract, and they said something of the sort, well, point 1, point 4, point 7, point 11 alludes to abuse in the home that it was not true. And what does he do? He starts reading from point 1, which is, well, here it says, my father has not SA'd me. Of course he does. He wants him convicted. I mean,
yeah.
Why would you do that? So the cross-examination was 70% and 30%, oh, that this is bad. But the jury questions to that guy was pro-defense. Why didn't you do anything for 7 years? Stuff like that.
Yeah. But I mean, but again, this evidence is so flimsy. How in the world did it make it to trial? DA Val says, to be honest, they can indict almost anyone these days. And that's the scary thing. But then also, it was a comment above that. But then also, Wolfram's right. They can't, they don't only just indict on flimsy evidence, they convict. It's scary. Yeah. How are we going to convict on this kind of evidence? Or, preaching to the choir with Zachariah Anderson, I'm sure, unless John Gary's in here. But it's just this is such flimsy evidence. This shouldn't make it past the state's case in chief. It should be a directed verdict. But
yeah.
We'll see.
Photograph of the defendant back closer in time when you did the search?
Yes, on December 11th of 2008, he was photographed, full body photographed, close-ups to the torso, face.
So as we all do, physical changes occur. I'm going to approach with exhibit number 120.
They took photos of Michael in 2008.
Judge, this can be omitted without approaching the witness.
All right, you're offering exhibit number
120, Your Honor, to be omitted and published.
Was in
And
the
any
army.
objection?
No objection.
Oh,
Exhibit
look at that
120 may be
stars.
admitted and published.
All right, who are we
so
looking at in
stupid.
this photo?
That is Michael Roy Turney, identified as the defendant. That was back in December of 2008.
All right, approximately what was his build?
According to his MVD and my in-person contact with him, approximately 5'8" to 5'9", 210 pounds.
Okay. And was he able to get around easily back in that time?
Yes, he was unimpaired.
I apologize. Based on your observations.
Based upon my observation, yes.
So
Now,
he was able to do anything back in 2001?
Did you and Detective
That's
Summer
it?
go
Jesus.
to the defendant's residence on September 12th, 2008, in the anticipation of retrieving a number of items that had belonged to Alissa?
Yes, in my initial contact with the family representative, who was 19-year-old Sarah Turney at the time.
Pre-trial, what was excluded was any mentions of SA because it was allegations and nothing else.
Yeah, so
what,
Brandon, I don't know if you were following this from the get-go. This woman disappeared in 2001. The sister in 2019 started a podcast, and in her podcast, she just started throwing out all kinds of SA allegations and all kinds of other stuff. None of it ever existed prior to 2019, and so they're trying to use
there
that.
is one thing that there are claims that these police officers encouraged her to start a podcast. So somewhere between 2009 and 2019, they convinced her that her father did it, in my opinion. And then she started a podcast.
And then they just fed off of themselves in the podcast. And hopefully Josie is going to do I talked to Josie about doing a video where we're going to compare the podcast, what was said in the podcast, to what's actually been presented in trial, because she listened to the whole podcast. She's like, oh, this guy's guilty as hell. And then she's been watching the trial and she's like, but where's the evidence? I was like, I was promised evidence in the podcast.
Yeah. And if, for instance, as I have to go up. Where was it? Soul Souffle indicated, well, there's videotapes of minors with body parts showing. If that happened, he would be charged for it.
Yep.
Absolutely
he would. Why would they let that go?
Yeah.
Prosecutors love to overcharge. They will charge with anything they can.
Yeah. Even if she walked by in a towel with something showing,
they would
at least try.
They could destroy this man's credibility in a heartbeat in front of this jury if they could get any sort of essay stuff in there.
Oh yeah.
I expressed an interest in collecting any sort of items, artifacts, anything that would have been personal of Alissa's, to try and identify friends, a notebook, a journal, her yearbook, items like that, personal correspondence, anything we could, anything that remained of her in their possession. We agreed upon that date, anticipating a significant volume of content. I brought Detective Summershoe, myself, Detective Linda Bruja.
I mean, there was rumors, but again, no actual allegation or like no credible evidence. That's the thing.
Let's see here. Let me just show you one thing. Remember her?
Good point, right? The allegations of sexual essay by Johnny Depp.
Now, do I claim that Alissa did it? No, but we have to entertain that thought that it was all made up. That she actually ran away. She got to her aunt. They had a falling out. She took off again. Wrong crowd. Gone. We don't know, because the aunt is gone. And they never, to my knowledge, never actually searched the aunt's house for any trace of Alissa. Let's continue.
And I arranged for a F-150 truck for removal of any sort of property.
How many items were you actually able to obtain when you went there?
Very little. I think we left with her yearbook.
And I guess how many items were the items prepackaged or bundled to your arrival?
They were encased in a couple of small totes. A lot of the things had no real value to me. Her stuffed animals, stuff like that. I can't really do anything with that. I'm trying to remember the exact items there. There were a number.
Yeah, that's true. In the 80s, it was a very different world.
But in the 90s, there was a huge, at least over here, I imagine it was in the United States as well, with the repressed memories stuff, 80s and 90s. And all of a sudden, things changed.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember that in the late 90s, early 2000s. It was all this oh, your suppressed memories, and once you unlock those, you realize that everybody's been essayed and blah blah blah. Yeah, I remember all that.
Satanic panic and essay and everything. So stuff changed. So nowadays, yeah. And I've done some videos about chat control in the European Union, and I believe the United States tries as well to pass something about surveillance to protect the children. And yeah, so I reference stuff like that in those videos. But this is this trial.
Of items that we looked through. I don't remember anything significant that I took that day.
That's fine. So there was a small couple of Tupperware or container devices that had those items.
Small containers, yes.
Did they also contain items that had belonged to Sarah?
Yeah, they were mixed. We would go through, we would express an interest in an item, and Sarah would identify it as hers.
When you were provided with these items, were you given access to the entire house?
No, we were kept, and we respectfully remained in the entryway to the home. Again, this is 17218. Alyssa's never lived there. I don't really have an interest in going throughout the home. Officer.
This is also amazing, because if he kept everything, what is there to say that he didn't keep? So if he is this boo killer, they might have been. And I do know the previous cop testified to that they received a plastic bucket thingy with her stuff, and they didn't process the stuffy bears or other knickknacks, just some of the things. But there could be traces of stuff on her. For instance, let's speculate that the essay allegations are true. Then there might have been evidence of male ejaculation on the stuffy things. All of a sudden, you have something to prove. They never checked, because he didn't think it was important.
Safety. I don't like people leaving my site and then returning into my site, but I felt comfortable. It was a family contact. It wasn't an aggressive environment.
And that was done via invitation from Sarah Turney?
Yeah, well, I'm sure I suggested it. I wanted to obtain whatever I could to flesh out who Alissa had been.
Poor question. It was
this. The tractor is a Ferguson from 1954. And yes, I bought.
Make.
Yeah, and yes, the license plate is probably the main reason I bought it. Thank you, David, for gifting memberships.
I wish I could select the gifted memberships. I'm trying to hit one specific person, so I'm doing one at a time. I'll see if I get there.
Okay, congratulations to CS101 and DA Val. Now let's see who get Salvador.
Oh my God, Salvador! Damn it, you owe me. You owe me a gifted membership, Salvador.
Oh
hell.
Yeah, but DA Val, that's a good catch. She is pretty new to the channel, so that's good.
Yeah.
Let's see who gets it. It's a raffle. It's a raffle. Who gets it? Oh, and Angela. Remember to press that box so you can accept gifted memberships.
Salvador took a membership. God.
That's so funny. I can drive it on the road. That's why it needs a license plate. Yeah, FCK. Now, while David entertains my profits, let's continue here.
Something that was agreed upon between you and Sarah Turney.
Yes.
There are members only stuff and a
right,
link to the Discord.
And just to be clear, there was no, during that time or your search of the residence, you never recovered a cassette tape of a call that had the defendant had stated was Alissa calling from California.
That doesn't matter because you have the phone records, which Michael gave you. There was a phone call from California. Now you can allude how much you want, but you don't know if it was picked up or not. You have to assume it was. And still, that's still evidence how much you allude to something else. This pisses me off.
No.
And you never came across, or you're never provided with a video cassette of the day, May 17, 2001, when Alissa disappeared.
No, I've never been provided with that item, and that is something that we knew absolutely existed.
Serial Shot Dodger, my name is Jeff, was gifted a membership.
Well, how did you know it existed?
He was asking.
In review of the case documents, the items that have been impounded by
Thank you,
prior
David.
case agents, there is a letter dated May 25th of 2001 from Michael Roy Turney to NCMEC, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. NCMEC is one of the resources that we suggest to persons who are going through a missing loved one, specifically children. Persons in that 18, 19, 20-year-old category are also handled by NCMEC. But they provide advice, they can provide counseling. They also
NCMEC?
organize media outreach.
Says
If you've ever seen a
Nick-Nick?
child on a milk can,
What?
You say Nick?
Knick-knack. Or did he say that?
He says Nick. What's a Nick? Am I hearing that wrong?
persons who are going through a missing loved one, specifically children. Persons in that 18, 19, 20-year-old category are also handled by NCMEC. But they provide advice, they can provide counseling. They also organize media outreach.
Is that
If you've ever seen a
organization called
child on a
Nick-Nick?
milk can,
Oh,
milk
Nick.
can, milk carton, that's NCMEC.
NICMEC.
If you've ever seen a bulletin board put up advertising missing child, if you've ever seen images of a missing child at Walmart, that is NCMEC.
All right. When you were at the residence on September 12th, 2008, did you speak to the defendant?
Yes, Mr. Turney was there along with
another
Sarah.
account.
Okay. And did the defendant provide you with a description of Alissa Turney?
Yes, the vague description, the physical description of her clothing was not discussed or recalled in any usable fashion.
All right. Do you recall him speaking about whether she had any behavioral problems?
Yes, a lot of that is volunteered information.
Right. Well, did the defendant say that Alissa was not a behavioral problem? She just flunked all her
All of
tests.
the tests.
That is what ADDs are like.
Yes.
Here's the thing. They claim they've interviewed 200 people who had anything interesting to say, which they documented. I still haven't heard them saying that they went to her old school to interview teachers or former classmates. Still not.
Right.
Is that because they didn't do it, or because whatever they said?
Well, they hadn't gathered any new evidence at all since 2001. Really? Nine.
Yeah,
What did they gather in 9? What was the new evidence in 9?
Well, the testimony and the letters and stuff like that, and then they collected all the evidence, but there was no new evidence. Everything they collected was about 2001, and here we are 22 years later.
Yeah.
Did he also describe Alissa as Alissa has a mental illness, a disability?
Yes.
Yeah, he wasn't nice about her. That, if that is all they have,
During that conversation, did the defendant tell you when he picked Alissa up from school that day?
Again, the statements recalled by Mr. Turney at that time were vague. It was, I'm not really sure. It's been a while. You have to excuse me. I'm not in good health. I did not get concrete answers. There was enough of a willingness on Mr. Turney's part to discuss the situation that I invited him to come down for an interview.
When you asked him when he picked up Alissa, was his response right at the end of school?
Yeah, but again, that's already been established as inaccurate. So I don't know that he's fully thinking through.
I'm just asking what the statement that he made.
Yes, that was the statement.
And then did you ask him
They wrote
about more
it down, I
details
don't
and
know.
his memory of May 17, 2001?
Yes, the May 17th, 2001 is a glaring hole. There's no ability for me to set up a timeline. There's nothing to corroborate who had seen her last. There's nothing to corroborate her return.
Non-responsive.
What I was saying about or what Nick was saying about the childhood schoolmates and things like that, or my question about the new information, it's all based on why didn't they bring in this charge in 2001? Why didn't they bring it in 2007 or 8? Why didn't they bring it any time other than 20 years later? That was
Yeah,
my
I mean,
point.
they had enough to prosecute and convict him in 2010 for the pipe bombs and everything. Apparently, nobody at the prosecutor's office at the time, even though this guy and his partner believed the father was guilty, they have already made the active choice, in my opinion, in 2010 to not prosecute him for this. Now, could this be argued from the defense? But then you let the 2010 conviction in.
Well, it's absolutely a change in the district attorney, DA Val. It's also a change in what prosecutors are willing to do to bring charges. It's also a change in societal expectations of what it means to be charged with a crime. Juries sit down and they think, all right, this guy's guilty. Tell me how it's done, as opposed to really relaying, not all juries, but there's a surprising number of the mass population that believes that. So there's a lot of things that changed, and they're like, well, we have a very favorable jury system now. Let's just bring the charges.
Yeah. Remember, 2012 was the Jodi Arias trial, and the amount of evidence in that trial is staggering. And she still could have gotten away with it. I know that in appellate court, even the appellate court said that trial was riddled with misconduct. Now, compared to the trials I see today, that trial is clean as F. I mean, compared to what we see today.
Right. That's what's so interesting about the Jodi Arias trial is how normal of a prosecution it is, how it should be. Here are the facts, jury. Here's what it is. We need justice. They're not doing all kinds of BS.
Yeah.
Jonathan, I can't remember what eyebrow got stitched 20 years ago. Yeah, it's funny. I got hit in the eyebrow with a Tonka truck years ago, and I can't remember which eyebrow it was either. Yeah, and yet we're expected to remember that. And that was a traumatic event for me, by the way. I can't remember which eye it was. But
but
expected
would you have remembered it if it was 6 years ago? At least a better chance of it.
Perhaps. Better chance of it. Yeah, of course. Or, the year it happened, of course.
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah.
So.
And you don't
Jodi
know
is
how
just misunderstood.
And how long does schools keep records? Could they have it subpoenaed from her old school? Everything there? As it is now, they are only talking about it. They're not showing the papers of it.
What papers would they be getting from the school?
Well, from her old school where she got that description. What's it called? She had to take extra classes or special.
Oh, the IEP, individual
IEP.
education plan. They probably still would not have that 20 years ago. I don't think they would have that.
No, but in 2008.
Oh, they would have
7
had in
years later.
2008. They would have had in 2001 when she went missing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
gathering evidence. Poor police. work.
Did you ask?
But yeah, let's go on. We have
Also ask him about his memory of May 17th,
hours left.
2001.
I did.
and it's an
And
hour and a
did
half
he state,
to the planned start
at that time
of the Rumble.
that he went to get Alissa early from
Let's
school?
see how far
Yes.
we get.
Did he remark on when he returned home later that night?
I believe it was a vague remark, something to the extent of after dark. Or it may have been dark.
Yeah, but if you don't trust him, one thing, why do you trust that it was after dark when the sister says 4:30? Why do you trust him?
What month was this?
May 17th.
Oh, it's not dark.
So after dark means 7, 7:30, 8.
Yeah, in May. Because
Yeah.
June, the
Hmm.
next month, 30 days later, is the longest time of the year in
Yeah.
the Northern Hemisphere. So
Yeah.
you're only a month away of the sun setting at like 9:45. So
Yeah.
the sun is setting at like 9.
Yeah,
in
but
May, right?
but Sarah wrote or testified to 4 to 4:30 they got home. No, she was picked up at 4:30. I'm not sure when she testified to when they got home, but supposedly they just drove home. So why do they trust his memory of, oh, it was probably dark, over her memory? I mean, there's two conflicting testimony here. And he's not this. We are closing in on burden shifting here.
Yeah. Yeah, much like what everyone expects today from defendants. You prove your innocence, not the other way around.
Yeah.
I do have to jump. I got to go pick up a family member and transport her around. I'll keep listening, though. This is very interesting, so I'll be in the chat.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining.
Yeah, no problem.
Did the defendant volunteer any statements about Alissa and taking money with her?
Yes, I believe he did. If there's something I quoted, may I refer to the report? instead of
Certainly.
Trying to recover my.
That was in
20 years of
her.
Certainly.
I'm leaving
We're looking
now.
at supplement 251,
251.
251. Let us know when you're on that supplement.
Just a moment. It is a 2,000 and some page PDF, larger than War and Peace. Supplement 251.
Correct. Page 8.
Top paragraph, memory of May 17th, 2001.
And we're looking at the second paragraph to the bottom. Did you, was there a comment about how much money she had with her?
And Michael Turney was asked about Alyssa's income and how she cashed her paycheck from Jack in the Box. The original report had indicated that Alyssa.
Actually, it's fine if you do that, but I suspect the rules will expect us to only omit some statements that he made. So
Absolutely. I will correct that. My understanding was that she took $300. That was expressed to us in the notes. Speaking to Mr. Turney, he indicated that she had taken close to $1,200.
All right. Did you noted neighborhood canvas that was done?
Yes, the 18th of that same month.
So would that be approximately 6 days, 7 days later?
Yes.
And that involved the past that you've
Look
already
how
explained
much we
this morning?
did.
Yes, the old school shoe leather,
7
knocking
years
on
later.
doors, showing people bulletins. If there's no answer at the door, you leave the bulletin and a business card there to solicit a response.
This is
If somebody was there,
nothing
you
but
ask
word
them
salad.
how long they've been in the neighborhood, if they were aware of the situation, if they knew this child, or if they had any children or cousins or anybody who would have been within her age range. I'm looking for peers, friends in the neighborhood.
All right. Did the
Did you find
defendant
the creepy neighbor?
during that
Did you
encounter
find the creepy
volunteer
coworker?
to you any information about him surveilling Alissa at work?
Yes, Mr. Turney stated that he had watched her from the parking lot.
Did he have any concern about doing that?
I don't believe so. I think he felt that that was justified.
Probably a poor question. Was he worried that he may have been caught?
Yes, that she had noticed.
Well, entertain the thought again. If she's doing drugs and having relations with coworker, what would you do as a dad or a mom? Entertain the thought. That's all I'm asking. My theory is they are hiding the lack of actual evidence with a vast amount of useless evidence.
Your Honor, may I approach with exhibit number 104?
You may.
Sorry.
Oh, I just remembered. Remember the friend who was in between age of Sarah and Alissa? Now, if Alissa was 17, that friend who testified in the beginning or on day 2, she would have been 15 and admitted to usage of rock and roll tobacco. If she was in any of those videos, don't you think at 15, possibly 14? Remember, they didn't hang out 6 to 10 months before Alissa's disappearance. That would make Alissa 16 and the friend 14. That is definitely a minor in any state if there was videos of her with body parts out. Entertain the thought. All I'm asking.
Can you take a look at exhibit number 104 and tell us what we're looking at?
Yes, this is a Desert Schools Federal Credit Union account statement in the name of Alissa M. Turney from 17217 North 34th Street. It has her account number, and the date range is 4/26 of 2001 to July 25th of 2001.
Right. Did you obtain a larger volume of bank records?
Yes.
And this is just a portion.
Okay, I need
Yes, it
to consider my phrasing.
How are bank
My
records?
apologies.
How can bank records be of value to you in an investigation in general?
In general, if somebody has access to money, people tend to access their money, especially if they're living off the grid. If they're financing themselves without the help of a parent or a significant other, they're going to seek out the resources that they have at hand.
All right. So are bank records or financial records a potential investigative lead for you?
Absolutely. I've identified missing adults through
All right. You're I'm getting old, Your Honor. I've already forgot the exhibit.
104.
104. Your Honor, the state would move to exhibit number 104 at this time.
No objection.
Exhibit 104 is admitted.
And permission to publish.
You may.
Here's the thing. If she really wanted to get away, and speculation again, why would she use an ATM? With an ATM and the dad is on the bank account, then he knows where she is. I'm more and more having my money on that. She ran away, got to California to her aunt, hid there for a while, had an argument, took off again. And sadly, possibly, yeah. Or she might have met a Saudi Arabian prince and is living happily ever after in the United Arab Emirates. I don't know.
We will see if this is large enough for everyone to see. But what are we looking at here?
Well, you've zoomed in on the top page of that statement, that same date range of April to July
All right.
2001.
So, just to go a little bit slowly, when we're talking about date range, are we looking at this portion where I have my pen?
If you look up at the top, just off of the
Okay,
screen,
there I
it'll
see
give you
they
a precise
have
date
New
range.
Balance $1,800.
I
Okay.
apologize. I'm on a roll with questions today. Are these numbers right here dates for certain transactions?
You're on a roll for
Yes,
bad
documented
prosecution
transactions
as
having
well.
occurred on that date.
And what you referenced, which is on above the screen, this is the records that were pulled that we're seeing here for the date range we're seeing here.
Yes, the second page will be the continuation from July through October.
All right. So when we're looking at this, was there anything of note for you during your investigation?
Initially, the 4/26 of 2001 date, there's a transfer of shares, which is a transfer of cash equivalency from the account 529480-08
They
to the
already
amount of
testified to
$300.
this.
All right. Well, what else was of value to you in this document?
On the second page, thank you. There's the termination of the account, $1,860, which had been in that account.
That is not a termination. They actively left. Look at that. $26, $28. That would have kept the account alive. That's not a termination of the account. Jesus. The last witness tried this as well.
Account is removed from the account and moved into a different account.
Okay. One moment, Your Honor.
I don't know. My cousin has 80s Beamer, and that thing is a damn yacht. It's big AF, and it's so comfortable.
So we've heard some testimony about $300. Do you know where that $300 came from? That's on, April 26, 2001.
Yes, that $300 originated from the personal account of Michael Roy Turney, was deposited into his daughter's account, Alissa Marie Turney.
Okay, and how are you able to determine that?
In addition to Alyssa's bank statements, we also recovered statements from Michael Roy Turney as well as Sarah Turney.
This is compound.
Yeah, turning some other documents. I'm not sure this wasn't, I don't think this was admitted yesterday. 68.
This has already been testified to. On occasions, Michael Turney transferred money to Alissa's account. After her disappearance, sometime after, he transferred everything but $28 to Sarah's account, but left the account open with $26. Some other time, further into the future, he closed the account after being given the advice from someone that closing the account may be forcing the daughter to come home. That's the testimony as I remember it. You in the chat can remind me if I'm remembering wrong. Hey, it's happening with Harper. Good to see you.
Actual signed one. Objection. Okay.
I'm going to approach exhibit number.
You don't have,
I'm sorry.
I'll have no objection to it if you're offering to admit it.
Okay. Your Honor, I believe defense will stipulate to omission and publication of exhibit number 68.
Any objection?
Your first 3 words, according to Sarah. Nothing of this has been admitted in court, in trial. Now, it can be because it's not admissible, because there's no evidence of it, just her word of it. And the first time anyone has ever heard from it was during the podcast. Just entertain the thought, please. We have to go by what's presented in trial. Rumors, even from the sister, is not admissible.
Objection.
Objection, Your Honor.
68 will be admitted and published.
All right. What are we looking at in this document, Detective?
This is one of the several contracts, legalized documents, often notarized and signed between
Oh, they
Alissa
showed-
Marie Turney
okay, but the
as
defense
instructed by her
admitted it.
father, Michael Roy Turney.
And how did you obtain this document?
Some of these documents were actually
Okay,
sent
they
to us
opened
from
the
Michael
door,
Roy Turney.
and there it is.
And
That is the
in this
one
document,
thing
uh,
that will convict him.
was there anything
my opinion.
of value to you?
I consider the documents to be oddities. I've never encountered anything like this before, not even in domestic violence. My specific concerns were the
Objection, hearsay, calls for speculation.
Sustained as to improper opinion. Why don't you re-ask the question?
That's fine, Judge. If we can just,
Strike his response, Your Honor.
Sustained. The jury will disregard the answer.
when you review this document, were there specific terms that caught your attention?
yes,
And which one of those terms, if or all of them, were concerning to you?
sexual abuse, sexual intercourse, bisexual activities, oral sex.
And who, I guess, to be clear, you just noted off those areas. The full statement, though, is I have never engaged in, for example, number 5, any sexual intercourse.
That is correct.
Right. And I have never seen my father sexually or physically abuse my sister, Sarah Turney.
That is correct.
I don't know why the defense opened this door. I have no idea why the defense chose to open this door. This is, in my opinion, the only thing in this entire trial that can convict Michael Turney. Are you seeing this, David? This is dumb.
I have never seen my father, Mike Turney, physically or sexually abuse any of his children.
Correct.
So you came across a number of these terms. Is there a date on this document?
Yes, if you move it to the bottom. Well, there's a date, May 19th of 2000 on the top. If you go to the bottom, May 19th of 2000 is when Alissa.
It might have been that the judge changed his mind during the motion eliminate. But that could only happen if he considered the door being opened. Jesus Christ.
Attorney appears to have signed it.
Did you come across notarized documents, a contract?
Yes, at least 3 of them. I'm sorry, 2 notarized and signed, at least, I'm sorry, 2 signed, 1 also notarized and signed.
What is a notarized document?
A notarized document is a document that you took, sat down in front of a notary public who registered the document, stamped it as you identified yourself, and signed it in her presence.
All right, so
Or his presence, her presence.
is it an extra layer of authentication for the time that's being, this is being signed?
Yes, it marks it in stone, for lack of a better description.
And was this document notarized?
I do not believe this one was notarized. I do not see the notary stamp on this one.
All right. So the only information we have from this document is May 19th, 2000.
Yes,
There's a second document in that. Do you know if that second document is a additional copy of this without signatures on it?
yes, there appears to be a rough copy without any sort of penmanship on it, just the printed version.
All right. Moving on.
Thank you, Shanigram. Yeah. No, I was already on a warning, so I can't
Judge,
monetize.
I believe by stipulation or
I
without
can't
objection.
get ad revenue
Exhibit
from this
110 was submitted
video
yesterday.
or stream.
Exhibit number 121.
So we
is an
already
identical
were there.
copy of 110 with the addition.
Thank you so
of a
much,
signature
Shanigram.
or
It's
initials.
much
on it. So
appreciated.
the state would be moving to omit exhibit number 121 at this time.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 121 will be admitted.
This case has even less evidence than the Zachariah Anderson case. The smoking gun here is the allegation of SA. That's it. The allegation. Not the allegation of him actually committing it. Not the allegation. This is so infuriating.
All right, so Detective, I believe we saw exhibit number 110 yesterday, and it was a contract, and we went over those terms.
I don't know that it was displayed earlier, but it was shown to Detective Summershoe.
All right, it was omitted, so we will just move on to exhibit number 121.
Nope.
Is this an identical copy to that exhibit number 110?
With the exception of this one is actually marked. It has the signatures and the initials.
Okay, so when you say this one is marked, are we seeing initials on this side of the contract?
Yes, AT next to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
And is this a contract between, who is this contract between?
It's identified as a parental, custodian, and child agreement. The parental portion being Michael Roy Turney, custodian being his youngest son, Michael Seth Turney, and the child being Alissa Marie Turney.
Yeah.
Again, do we have a number
I
of
agree,
terms
young Gary.
listed here?
Yes, on that page and the next.
All right. And when you say on the next, this is a 2-page document.
Yes, it is.
What do we see on this page?
This page has the date at which it was signed and the notary. Is that me or you?
Hit that AF button, autofocus on the top.
Let's see.
Thought I was having a stroke.
Apologize, Your Honor.
Somewhere around.
Yeah, but 2 judges agreed to the motion of eliminate. So allowing this contract is based on opening the door, in my opinion. I didn't hear because they cut out the sound from the out. I'm so disappointed in the defense right now. I'm so disappointed.
There.
Stop.
There we go.
There we go.
If you can bring it to the bottom, that's the.
Okay, so just to, before we jump to that, we see some more terms with initials next to them.
Yes, items 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 are visible, each appearing to have the AT initials.
All right. And at the bottom of this page,
Signed this 23rd day of May 2000. Alissa Turney has remarked they have no identification. Michael Roy Turney signature is there. Michael Seth Turney signature.
Oh, really? The 50% of the chat is spending time on this trial, and 50% are talking about cars. I love my chat. During the cross-examination of the previous witness, they referred to the contracts, which, in my opinion, opened the door to actually admitting the contracts into evidence. MLS Law Show, you drive a family van of sorts? No, you're a SUV. You're an SUV driver.
Is there, and the notary public whose commission expires 4/25 of 2001. I cannot read her name on this copy. She's acknowledging that it was signed on May 23rd of 2000.
all right, to be clear, we have a date that her commission expired, but this is the date that this individual is notarizing this document was certified.
That is correct. She's acknowledging that this document was documented by her as a notary public on May 23rd of 2000.
I think it was purposely. Either they did it on purpose or they tried to elude it by only pointing out certain aspects of the contract, which was immensely stupid in that case, because if they thought they could get away with it, they made a serious miscalculation.
Before I switch over to Elmo and we make that transition, I want to make sure I don't leave anything out. This money, the funds here, do you know where those funds went to? The $1,860.
Yes, on October 5th of 2001, this account was effectively closed. $1,860. The majority of the balance was transferred from the account of Alissa Marie Turney into that of her sister, Sarah Elizabeth Turney.
Talking to the microphone, counselor. It's not hard. It's right there.
Are you familiar with a call from the defendant?
You can ask the main prosecutor how that microphone is working, because every time he's near it, he tries to jerk it off.
Talking to one of his sons, Michael Seth Turney?
Yes.
And did you have a chance to review that call?
I've listened to it a few times in the past, yes.
All right. I'm going to approach you with exhibit, or Judge, I believe without objection, the state's going to move to omit exhibit number 124 and publish.
Any objection?
No objection.
Exhibit 124 is admitted and may be published.
Why are they admitted? Oh, freaking freaks. Why did you open the door?
Area code 602 in Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you. Hello. Yep. Count it all and write it on the envelope. Fun. 80 day today's a bad day. Sarah don't want to go to school. Alyssa's supposed to go in late. She lost her wallet. You know, I'll give her basically an alternative cops where she can bond back with me and the family and stop being such a fucking asshole and, you know, distance this family from all the problems we've had from her boyfriend. And she said no. On the 28th, a bad day. I wanted to get over and go do some fishing, just get the fuck away. But no, Sarah couldn't go to sleep last night because I was upset. I made a fully stupid mistake and tried to talk to Alissa, which was a total absolute fucking waste. You know. So for the first time in my fucking life, I've got to take a kid that I love and call the cops. Probably going to lose the house. Everything else is going to be fucked over because of some stupid ass fucking bitch. More than likely, she's going to run away anyway after she gets busted. They're not going to put her in jail this time, I almost guarantee it. No, they're going to fine me $750 to $1,000. Then what do I do, Mike? I don't know, Bob. I mean, this is one of those situations where I've got to live by what you guys have for rules and shit, Mike. I'm nothing like any of you guys, Mike. I'm a very boring motherfucker. I'm the most boring son of a bitch you guys have ever known that likes to come home, play a little catch with the kids, watch a little bit of TV once in a while, hear the problems the kids had, help them with their homework, do whatever it wants to do, have a dinner, you know, sit and socialize, go off and talk with an adult at night times when we all go off to bed. That's the kind of life I like, Mike. It's a boring motherfucker, but I love it. Well, that's pretty boring, too. So to say, it seems that you're going to be punishing yourself for something less than that. Just saying that, I'm going to tell you what to do. Also, we just wait till the next time she does it. I mean, it's only the fifth fucking time, Mike. I mean, you know what, man? They're going to do shit to her. All you're going to do is they're going to punish you. That's it. That's going to get you more pissed off. I'm just saying, like I said, I was told I got those kids confident, but they do shit to me. They don't have criminal records. They don't care. They truly do not care. So they're going to punish the parents. They're going to say, well, you're a bad parent. And you know it's their thing. You're going to get pissed. I'm not much of a list by any means. I mean, I don't know what you do to punish her because obviously she's a character. You don't have to bring up right on two out of her head. You know, but I just don't see the reason you should punish yourself. But $1,000 is a lot of fucking money, Dad. You know, you don't need to be giving up the grand because of a fucking retard. I do it all the time for my kids, Mike. Oh, I know, but I mean, I think the best thing to do is to shut off the source. What you gonna do then? You're exactly right. I'm gonna go out here and just blow my fucking brains out, and there's the source. And you guys can do what the fuck you all want to do. You know, Mike, it solves my goddamn problem. I don't have to fucking worry about this anymore. I don't have to listen to these bullshit fucking lies, excuses, and horseshit from everybody around me. The only people I really give a rat's ass from. I don't have to keep away from people who I should be out going trying to socialize, maybe making an own life for myself because I have children that don't like someone I might meet. Oh, I want you to go and meet somebody. Right, Mike, and you did exactly that whenever I married Barbara, right? I was fucking years old then, and I didn't still did I fought with John. I knew that was never meet Barbara. I was not like Red Jay, but you can't say that I was. Okay? I never disliked Barbara. I didn't get along with that well, but I never came into that when you married Barbara. Not one time. You can't ever say that I did. Okay? I got along with Barbara to a point because I was a little shit. Yeah, and I was a silent brat, but I was never to the point where, Daddy, I hate Barbara. I never said that. Not one time. I respected Barbara because she was honest. And she didn't fuck around. She got right to the point. You know, you have to respect that. And I was glad you were happy, Dad. What are the fucking people that they just want to go after someone when there's no way they can protect themselves because they're there with the person? There's no double witnesses and stuff. You're going to keep fucking video cameras on all your children all the time and every conversation you have, that's the case. This is the insanity of this fucking state. This is the insanity of all this bullshit, Mike, and I'm exhausted. I don't want to be involved in this kind of shit. This is forcing me to live like my fucking cousins and my parents and my family, trash and filth and all this other kind of shit going on constantly. Never being loud. You know, my secrets are always told everywhere by a big mouth, which leaves me no alternatives whatsoever. And you can never protect yourself. You have to sit back and eat it. Of course, there's no foundation for them or I'd be in jail. But you just watch the people slowly walk away from you, slowly don't want nothing to do with you. You say to yourself, you know, this is insane. In other words, my life sucks. It's just terrible. I can have a good time with Sarah so long as Alissa doesn't care. She's always in there with something. I don't give a fuck what it is. Now I'm going to have to put up with and deal with some fucking little cocksucker that's doing all kinds of shit to this family. Let's go back to my bed. And go to jail? Hang on a second. I'll talk to you later, Mike.
Judge, may we approach?
You may. On or off?
Yeah, you can interpret that as damaging. Especially the part with all my secrets, and she is telling everyone, but what secrets? Or you can interpret it as the SA allegations are the secret, or it might be totally unrelated because this is the tape they chose. This is him venting to someone. And this is off the record. Stop smiling.
Ladies and gentlemen, the attorneys have advised me that right now would be a good time for us to take our afternoon recess. So we'll break a little early for a mid-afternoon break. It's about 3:40 or 2:40 right now. Please be back in the jury room at about 2:55, a little before 3 o'clock. You can leave everything in the courtroom if you'd like. Please remember the admonition. The jury's now excused.
Yeah. It all depends on what the jury interprets it. How they think about it.
Please be seated. Let the record reflect the presence of counsel and the defendant. The jury's not present. Anything for the record from the state?
No, Your Honor, just obviously, I do object to this being played. Obviously, in its form, we have no objection to this based on your ruling, but I still do object to this as hearsay, as irrelevant.
I don't know that we've identified what we're talking about. This is the recording of the conversation between Alissa and Aunt Lynette.
Yes, the one that they're playing next. We would object to that. We do not object to the form that is now. We still object to the whole thing, but as it's played here, we have no objection to this one based on your ruling.
You have provided your requested redactions and the state has made the redactions.
Yes.
All right. So based on the court's previous statements, the court will admit the redacted exhibit containing a audio recording of the conversation between Alissa and Aunt Lynette.
And so the record's clear. The exhibit, the redacted version, Your Honor, is Exhibit 125, which we will be moving to admit.
Duly noted.
Exhibit 91 is still marked.
And that's the unredacted version. Okay. We will be at recess until 2:55.
Okay, they have a general objection about this being played at all, but the judge ruled it admissible, this phone call we just heard. They are objecting to the next tape that's will be played, the tape between Alissa and the aunt. But based on the judge's ruling, the redacted form will be played. So this means that the defense have noted in the transcripts and to the court, they object to all of it, which makes it an appellate issue. That's the foundation of being able to appeal on these grounds and stuff like that, just so you know. Okay. I mean, I'm hoping nobody records my calls to my family, because we have a very dark humor, a few of us, and very sarcastic. But
Yeah.
But this I wouldn't
What?
talk
I have
about
no
my
idea.
family to anyone. Not like that we just heard.
Please be seated. We're back on the record in State versus Turney. Let the record show the presence of counsel, the defendant, and the jury. Detective Anderson is back on the witness stand. Mr. Bailey, you may resume your direct examination of the witness whenever you're ready.
All right, thank you, Judge. We just heard a call that took place between the defendant and his son, Michael Turney.
That is correct.
And you said there was not of the same subject matter, but there are numerous calls from the defendant to other individuals.
To other individuals, other institutions, and those are both incoming to the home, outgoing from the home. There's a ridiculous volume of fax squeal that's captured by that recorder. It's sensitive enough that it picks up any use of that home phone.
All right. Judge, I have exhibit number 125. The state is seeking to omit it this time.
All right, and subject to the previous objections, any additional objections?
No, Your Honor.
The exhibit 125 is admitted.
And may I publish it?
You may.
Is this the call that we're about to listen to? Is this a call between Alissa and her Aunt Lynette?
Yes, that's her maternal aunt, Lynette, the one who at the time resided in California.
And just remind me again, did you have the opportunity to talk to Lynette during the course of your investigation?
I have spoken to her myself personally. I've met with her personally. It was Detective Summershoe who did the formal interview with her.
So Aunt Lynette was alive in 2008, 2009. Please tell me you searched her home. Because if you didn't, we are 2 hours and 6 minutes in. If you didn't search for evidence of Alissa being in that home, you're a fucking moron.
Assume there's been some testimony that she is now deceased. Were you aware of that?
Yes.
Yes, all I read. That was the redaction.
Die or something?
Are you pregnant?
No. Hell no.
Are you ever going to?
Yes.
Because you're in.
I swear.
I don't believe you.
I know. No, and I don't know, he's like flipping out over it, and I don't know why I felt stupid.
Why do you feel stupid?
No, like, I don't know, some guy he doesn't want me to see.
Yeah, how old is he?
Like, they're 19.
He's what?
19.
And you're what, 16,
17.
17?
But I'm not, like, talking to him anymore. My dad thinks I am.
Well, I'm wondering why your dad just called me and...
That would be possibly her boss, which we know is more than 24 months older, and she was 17. And they still, with this knowledge, they did not charge him.
Alissa, I need you to talk to me. I need you to tell me why.
I have no clue why he called you.
Well, you have to have a clue.
I don't know.
You have to. You don't really know why he called me. He just called me like 5 minutes ago. It was like freaking out over the phone.
What did he say?
He said that he needs me to call and talk to you because he doesn't know what's going on. I mean, I should say more in detail. I know. I'm wondering if he's drinking.
No, he's not.
Why is he freaking out all of a sudden? Just,
It's my dad. What do you expect?
huh?
What do you expect? He's always like that.
I know, but he hasn't done that for like many years.
Because you haven't been around him.
I know I haven't been around him. That's why I'm wondering why all of a sudden he's freaking out. I'm going, oh my God, what's going on with Alissa? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you dealing with, have you dealt with mom's death?
Oh, yeah.
And you're okay?
Yeah.
I need you to promise. Are you okay?
Yeah.
I mean, I need a promise.
No, I am. I'm fine.
Have you talked to John lately?
No.
Talked to John?
He doesn't like to talk about it.
He doesn't like to talk about mom's death.
Yeah. Well, like,
But I mean, have you talked to him?
yeah.
Just communication.
Oh, yeah, also.
Does he live there? Does John live there?
No.
Okay.
But he comes over every day.
So you're okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. Are you sure? I just scared the holy crap right out of me.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You're okay, girl, huh?
Yeah.
Now, if I talk to your dad, is he going to tell me something different?
No. What? Yes?
Who's that?
My dad?
problem. She can always call me.
My dad has it.
Okay, I didn't mean to scare her, but I just,
I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Listen,
Okay, Dad. I said you didn't mean to scare you.
and it scares the crap right out of me. Like, oh. What was it nice talking to you?
It's nice talking to you too.
Are you growing up real big?
Yeah. Sure.
Like, big old tower over me now, huh?
No, I'm short. I'm short. I'm not tall.
You're what?
I'm short.
You're short.
Yeah.
How tall are you?
I don't know, like
About 5'6".
maybe a little bit shorter.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because Mama was about 5'6". I think Barb was what, 5'6".
I don't know. No, I just have long blonde hair. That's all.
Long blonde hair.
Yep. That's all.
Well, nice to hear from you. Nice to hear your voice. And you know what? I'm so sorry. Did you go out to Disneyland too?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry, John. I talked to John, and he said I told him I said call me on Monday. I said we can get together and we us three, you three there and yourself and John. We can go out and have dinner. Well, he didn't call me the whole day on Monday, so I thought, well, they must have blew me off.
Oh, that's sad.
And then he called me, and I was gone. I had to take my dog to the doctors, and I was running around all day, and I didn't get home till late. I called next on Wednesday because I thought Sarah said you guys are going to be there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday.
Yeah, we
So I
were.
called the place there where you guys are staying to get your, called the hotel. Asked if you guys are still there. And he said, oh, no, they left.
Oh. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. You know what, Alissa?
Yeah.
If you ever want to come out and visit me, I'm right here.
Okay.
Okay?
Uh-huh.
Okay, let me talk to your dad first.
Okay.
I love you.
I love you.
That was a much better phone call for the defense than the other one, in my opinion. And the aunt says you can come out here anytime you want. Said something about Disneyland, was it? Yeah, what I learned from this phone call is that Alissa knew she could always come out to her aunt. Well, they did follow, they had conducted interviews with the aunt, but apparently they never searched the home. Not that I know of, not anything that's in evidence. I believe that if they had, they would have told us by now. Maybe that's what they are waiting for until the very end. We searched the place, we tore it up, and we found nothing. Well, then it's nothing. This is really weird. And the boss was never charged with doing stuff with the minor. To my knowledge, no. And I've said this before, and I say it again. I'm a union rep. The amount of junior bosses that takes advantage of newly hired girls is staggering. But to my knowledge, that guy, if he did it to one girl, you can bet your... I will not, if he's not charged, then this is pure speculation based on my knowledge about junior bosses and teenage girls. Way too common. Way too common. Let's continue.
He has no additional questions.
Mr. Bailey, I know outside the presence of the jury, we talked about the timing of that phone call, which the jury may have a question about. Were you going to elicit any testimony about the timing of that phone call?
Where did you listen to this phone call and document it in your report?
Yes,
Does Alissa talk about how old she was during this phone call?
she identifies herself as 17.
And all right, I have no additional questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Cross-examination, Mr. Jackson.
That's it. Okay, now we know they never searched the aunt's place. Never. They had the opportunity, never did. Jesus Christ. Actually, it is. They didn't define what they meant by it. May or may not be illegal, but heavy petting is the at least they could at least have, yeah. In Sweden, at least, I don't know about you in the USA, what is considered. But if there is any form of penetration, that counts with any body part. Cross-examination time.
Just briefly, Detective, in regards to that, since we're talking about it, do you know what month Alissa was born?
What month that phone call took place?
Or what month Alissa was born?
Yes, she was born 4/3 of 84.
Okay, so that would have been somewhere between 4/3 and 5/17, correct?
Yes, there's about a 6-week window there.
Yeah, that's it of everything recorded. At least from the phone.
Good afternoon, Detective.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jackson.
You were assigned this case in about 2008, correct?
September of 2008.
And at that point, you were assigned as a case agent.
That's correct. I inherited the entire queue for S through Z, and Alissa Turney falls within that queue.
T being after S, correct?
Yes.
As case agent, you were in charge of the case, correct?
I'm responsible for the overall direction, documentation, and progress of the investigation. That's true.
You can steer the investigation on what to do. You have other people working with you, but you may give assignments to people like, hey, can you go talk to this person, or you go talk to that person?
That is correct. In this particular venue, I do not have any sort of authority or rank over my coworkers, but we all work together cooperatively. We divide up tasks, and I'm the one who decides who's going to go do what.
So when you tell them what to go do, they'll report back to you in either person or in form of a supplement, correct?
Correct. Documentation or informing me what had happened.
As case agent, you would be responsible for submitting evidence to crime lab for DNA or other stuff like that, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
What people to interview? If you wanted.
Yes, the people that we decide to interview are the people that we can find based on that life pattern. And then whoever I can get to assist me with those interviews, I put them into play.
And if you are sending someone to interview someone that you know in the case, you would give them some background information about the case so they know what to interview this person about, correct?
Yes, we actually do that in a much more formal setting. We actually sit down. We would sit down in missing persons every 2 weeks or so, and we would roundtable cases.
So everybody in the missing person is somewhat familiar with the other cases that are going on.
Yes, and in addition to Alissa Turney, there are other cases we discuss. Other detectives have their own cases.
So in 2008, when you started missing person, you received a handful of cases already, correct? There was how many in that S through Z?
There were quite a few, I think in excess of 200. But again, that includes recent cases. I probably picked up 6 that day.
And while that's going on, you're getting new cases.
Yes.
So in October, you got new cases of 2008. November, you got new cases, correct?
On September 4th, I got new cases. On September 5th, I got new cases. September 6th, I got new cases, and on and on. And then Monday, you get everything from Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
So one of those cases was Alissa Turney.
Yes.
And when you get the file, the first thing you need to do is review it, correct?
Correct.
You want to find out what has already been done.
Yes, you want to look for the current status of the case.
You want to familiarize yourself with the case.
Yes.
And in this case, when you reviewed it, not a lot had been done, correct?
Yes, I mean, it's the easiest thing in the world to be critical of somebody else's work at a different time.
But not a lot was done, correct?
Correct.
You had a few reports from different detectives along the way.
That is correct.
You had items that Mr. Turney had given the previous detectives,
Yes, items that he had faxed in.
emails that he had sent.
If they were captured and notated by a detective, I don't recall any emails other than what Mr. Turney had recovered and sent to us.
Okay.
And here we go again. All of a sudden, oh, not really remembering while having almost crisp memory before.
So the original report was that a 17-year-old girl had run away, correct?
Correct.
And that took place on May 17th, 2001.
That's correct. Approximately 10:51 at night is when the call came in.
That's what's documented on that initial report, correct?
Yes, by Officer Philpott, civilian former officer Philpott.
Explain that. What do you mean, a former civilian or former?
He was a former sworn officer who had returned to a process we call callback. Basically, he takes low priority items that are called into either 911 or our non-emergency service, and he deals with them and addresses them on the phone instead of dispatching an officer.
And that's sometimes referred to as like a civilian aide or a officer aide sometimes?
Yes.
And so you don't have to be a police.
If anyone in a courtroom here back in Sweden had been chewing gum, the judge would have stopped and say, you need to remove that. One, because it's, in my opinion, disrespectful. And two, it distorts your expressions. And I believe in United States, the jury is supposed to look at the one who testifies, even for body language, to help them interpret, is this guy credible? So chewing gum is, I don't know why this judge allows it. And there has been a few witnesses in this trial that has chewed away.
Officer to do that specific job, correct?
No, not at all. Typically, when we have injured officers, that's an option for them to stay busy, fulfill their hour commitments.
So it just happens to be that this person who took the case, took that call, was an ex-police officer.
I believe he was, yes.
In that report that talked about her leaving a note,
Yes.
the note was found in the bedroom
Yes.
by her father and her sister.
Correct.
In the note, she said she was going to California.
Yes.
At some point, you did it much later. You had DPS Crime Lab analyze that, correct?
That's correct.
And the handwriting was a match.
Yes, for Alissa Turney.
And I guess we can talk about, how did you go about doing that? How did you what steps did you take to be able to have that note analyzed?
I contacted Sarah Turney, and one of the things we wanted to obtain were samples of her handwriting. And in addition to that, I actually asked Sarah to reproduce the note in her own handwriting as a comparative basis.
And you had other people do that too also, correct?
That is correct.
Mr. Turney also wrote that note out?
Yes.
And in that note, she also talked about taking $300 from her dad, correct?
Yes.
And as you investigated, you had talked to family members and other people and learned that there was sometimes cash on hand in the house?
Yes, that was remarked, yes.
There was no evidence found that Alissa had a credit card?
No, no credit card. I could never confirm whether she had a debit card or access to that account.
I was going to say, there's no evidence that she even had a debit card either, correct?
That's correct. It's in 2008, it was not possible for me to verify that information.
And it was determined through your investigation that Alissa could not access her bank account without her father, correct?
That I will disagree with you.
You will disagree?
Okay. Please show evidence.
Are you familiar with the report from Detective Fremeny?
Detective Freeman?
F-O-R-E-M-N-Y with the Maricopa County Attorney's Office.
Oh, okay. Yes, Maricopa County Attorney's Office, an investigator with Maricopa County, yes.
Yes, and as the case agent in this case, you are responsible for reviewing all the documents, correct?
That is correct.
To the best of your ability.
Yes.
And did you ever read this report?
Yes, I have reviewed everything in here.
Okay. And Tabitha Alessier was someone who worked for
Desert.
the bank. Does that
That's correct.
sound familiar?
It does.
And she was told that in 2001, a minor would be required to have a parent present when making a withdrawal, correct?
That is correct.
There's some evidence based on the records in the account that she might not even have known how much money was in her own account, correct?
We recovered.
Okay, so now they determined. Now, for some reason, this officer disagrees with Alissa having access to the account by herself without her father. But the defense just said in this report, it says this bank with this type of account demanded dad being there. Isn't it? Or chat, if I'm totally off the rails, please tell me.
Statements at the time she would deposit or withdraw money. Whether she read them or not, I cannot say.
Well, every single one of those deposits with those slips, Mr. Turney was present, correct?
Yes, there's indication that he, in addition to Alissa's signature, he affixed either the statement PVUHS ID, indicating Paradise Valley Union High School ID, and typically with Mr. Turney's driver's license above it.
Because banks usually require some form of identification.
Absolutely.
And there's evidence that you presented that money was being transferred into her account?
Yes.
From Mr. Turney?
Yes.
The account was opened by Mr. Turney and the initial deposit was done by him, correct?
Yes, he funded the accounts for himself and both of his children.
And we'll get into some of the bank records here in a second, but I kind of want to stay chronologically here. So the first detective that was assigned was Detective Schoenfelder, correct?
That is correct. He received the initial runaway juvenile report.
And there was not a lot of notes or reports on what Detective Schoenfelder had done in this case, correct?
There were absolutely zero supplements created by Detective Schoenfelder. He did have notes, but they're literally written onto the case file. There are no supplements.
So there was handwritten notes on a case file?
Yes.
Did you ever make?
Yeah, but they haven't presented the evidence. Sorry. Witness disagrees, which implies that she had withdrawal access to that account. Yeah. Where's the evidence? That's on the prosecution. They have to submit that evidence. Now, the defense submitted something that said otherwise, which is shifting of burden of proof. Hey, Captain Herfan is here. Hey, the chat is changing between talking about this case or about cars. So everything as it should be.
Copies of those?
Yes.
There were some letters and some documents that Mr. Turney had turned over to Mr. Schoenfelder, correct? That was in the file?
Yes, that was in the file.
Now, after Detective Schoenfelder, Detective Murphy came on, correct?
Sometime later, yes.
2003 or 2004?
Up until right before I arrived, yes.
Now, based on some of the documents that you reviewed, there is evidence to show that Mr. Turney was actively contacting different people within the police department, correct?
Yes.
And that started as early as May and up to 2007, 2008, correct?
I would even go before that. We have evidence that a postcard was mailed from Detective Schoenfelder to the family home. The phone number that had been recorded for Mr. Turney was not accurate. Mr. Turney had that in his possession. We recovered it during the search warrant. That would have at least elicited a phone call. And since the phone call was then corrected, I'm assuming Mr. Turney did respond and actually speak with Detective Schoenfelder.
No, but I'm saying between May 17, 2001 until you came on, there's documentation in the file that Mr. Turney was actively contacting police and interacting with them at that point, correct?
Absolutely.
Now, there was some mention of a letter, and I want to, may I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Show you what's been marked as Exhibit 111. This has been entered. Do you remember reviewing this?
Yes.
Do you know when that document was written?
When it was written, it's dated February 23rd, 1999. I do not believe that to be a correct date.
Okay. And why do you believe that not to be a correct date?
Because it's speaking of a situation that did not unfold until 2001.
And that's kind of what I want to get at. So the date on that is inaccurate, correct?
To the best of my knowledge, yes. I mean, there's no reason for him to reference a runaway report from 2001 if he's creating a document February 23rd of 1999. So I would assume the date is inaccurate.
Now, I want to ask you a few things about this document to see if we can.
You want me to hang on to it?
I'll publish it.
Awesome.
To see if we can kind of maybe narrow down when this document was written.
Is this document in evidence?
It is. It's already been admitted. I believe. Let me double check. Yes.
Hold on. Who asked that question?
To see if we can kind of maybe narrow down when this document was written.
Is this document in evidence?
It is.
Okay,
It's
that
already been
was the
admitted.
prosecution. Yeah.
I believe. Let me double check. Yes. So this letter is entitled "Letter of Appreciation for Detective Sean Felder and Sergeant Bob White," correct?
That is correct.
And it sounds like, if you read the bottom paragraph here, it says the purpose of this letter is to praise you officers for their assistance in understanding my situation so I can make the best decisions I can for what is in the best interest of my daughter. Correct? You agree with that?
Yes, you read that correctly.
There is, and there is some mention here in this last paragraph about it is Quest that failed to
Only
understand the
allegations.
significance of the federal laws that were designed to
That's
protect
it.
citizens.
Allegation.
It sounds like he's discussing a little bit about that Quest problem that he had, correct?
May 24th, 2001. That's correct. So my interpretation was this is sometime after May 24th.
So this would have to be after May 24th, correct?
Yes. Yes, there's no reason for him to mention those two detectives who are the current case agent and the current supervisor for the unit, the 2001 report, and then an event that is known to have happened on May 24th.
And there's some talk in some of the investigation that went on that at some point he was quite critical of things that Detective Sean Felder had done, correct?
Absolutely.
So when did that occur? Do you know?
When did he become critical?
Yeah. Is there anywhere where he's being critical? Do you have a date in mind of when he started saying that Detective Sean Felder wasn't doing anything?
There are victims advocates information that I obtained through subpoena.
Mhm.
In that, Mr. Turney is speaking to an assigned victims advocate, Charmaine Ashworth.
Okay.
He would often express displeasure at the pace of the investigation, state that people aren't following up correctly. He would state that Detective Murphy did not understand things. She was snickering at him.
Well, that's much later because Detective Murphy's not till 2003, 2004. We're talking about Detective Sean Felder, correct?
Correct.
I asked you, is there a point in time when Detective Sean Felder, he became agitated about things that he was doing?
I do not remember a specific point in time. It was sometime after May 24th.
And there is some documentation where he contacted sergeants and police chief asking them to investigate the disappearance of his daughter.
Yes.
Based on the phone records that were received from this, were you able to determine what efforts Mr. Turney took to get those phone records?
That would be on the prosecution, but either that is not admitted, it's been a motion elimini, but nowhere during this trial, except the allegations, there is no evidence of Michael Turney physically abusing his daughter. No actual, just the allegations. Not even circumstantial evidence. And if it is, it's not admitted.
You're referring to the Quest call on May 24th?
Yes.
Yes, he contacted Quest. He requested the month of May, I believe. He was told that there's a significant financial request. I believe it was $10,000 to provide that information. He objected to that. He contacted NCMEC requesting their assistance. He contacted the Phoenix Police Department, reported the call, and then requested their assistance in obtaining the phone number.
And did Phoenix Police Department help in getting that phone call?
No, we did not serve any sort of legal process. When you have a 17-year-old who...
I'm not asking you why. Did Detective...
Mads again. The defense should control the witness on cross. Ask yes, no question that leaves no room for the witness to improvise. I agree. And yeah, I don't know why they are not narrowing everything down that way.
Detective Schoenfelder asked for those records.
No, he did not.
Is that something he could have done? He could have asked for a subpoena, correct?
The subpoenas are based on a legal precedent, a
I'm
reason.
asking you a question. As a detective, are you allowed to get subpoenas? Have you subpoenaed phone records before?
I have, yes.
Okay. And so that is something that he could have done.
In a criminal investigation, yes.
Bullshit. No, even I know this. He can, now there has to be a probable cause, but she's a minor at the disappearance. Knowing where she is when she's a minor, you don't need much to subpoena phone records. Almost nothing. You can go to a judge. You can do it here as well. Hey, judge, this minor disappeared, but here there might have been a phone call. Could you please help us subpoena based on whatever?
So he attempted to sue Quest for the telephone records, correct?
He threatened to sue Quest for the telephone records. They settled by providing him specific records on 517.
Your Honor, I'd object at this point and direct Detective Anderson to answer the question and not add whatever he feels is appropriate.
Sir, let's make sure you're listening to the question and then answering the question that's been asked. Mr. Jackson, why don't you re-ask the question?
He attempted to sue Quest for telephone records from the call from 5/24/2017, correct?
Yes.
And at some point he got those records, correct? From Quest, he received the records.
He did receive records from Quest.
And that took about 6 weeks?
Yes.
Now, are you aware of anything that Mr. Turney did after receiving those records in an effort to find Alissa? Did he go to California?
He stated that he had gone to California.
Oh, you
Actually-
asshole, you know he did. He stated that he had gone. There is witness testimony in this trial that you, officer, are aware of. Sneaky.
There is phone records that show that he has roaming charges while he was in California making phone calls, correct?
That is correct.
So why do you answer that way? I can answer that because you
You would later find documentation of attempts that Mr. Turney was attempting to contact detectives,
Yes, Mr. Turney contacted detectives frequently.
sergeants.
I do not remember precise records to the sergeants, but I know for a fact that he contacted our intake secretary and requested to be sent to sergeants. We have recorded phone calls of those.
He contacted the NCMEC, which NICMEC, I think is the quick term, or
NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
and that first contact to NCMEC was 5/25/21, correct?
Yes, based upon the date of the letter he sent to them.
And that was about 8 days after Alissa became a missing person, correct?
Yes.
There's phone conversations that were reviewed by either yourself or other officers of efforts attempt to talk to congressmen about trying to get help for Alissa, correct?
Correct.
Trying to draw attention to his daughter's case.
Correct.
But despite those efforts, Detective Schoenfelder never decided to interview anyone in regards to this investigation, correct?
That is correct.
Didn't interview any friends.
Friends of Alyssa's? No,
He didn't interview any of her coworkers.
he did not.
He didn't talk to any neighbors.
No neighbors.
No one came to the house to investigate the home.
Never went to the home.
No one attempted to get phone records.
Never attempted to get phone records from Quest.
And we talked about, well, I'm not talking Quest, I'm talking about cell phone records, different stuff like that. No phone records were
No
ever.
phone records.
And you're aware that back in 2001, maybe the cell towers were different. There was less of them and triangulation was a little broader, but you could still track down where someone was based on cell phone tower records, correct?
Absolutely. It was a frequent process I did as a domestic violence detective.
And you became a detective in what year?
2007.
And I guess for reference, 2007 cell phone towers are more like 2001, or was 2007 more like they are today?
I think they were more like they were in 2001. Typically, you'd be able to pull in azimuth, which would give you the facing from where the call came from and in an estimated distance. But that was about it.
And now with Google and other things, sometimes we can put a pinpoint right on sometimes or within a smaller area, correct?
We can follow you walking down the sidewalk.
No, you can't.
So after Detective Schoenfelder, we discussed that it then became Detective Murphy.
Correct.
There are some documentations of things that that she did, correct?
Yes,
She did file some police reports.
she did.
She followed up on a few things that she had learned from Mr. Turney.
I would say everything that Mr. Turney directed to her, she responded to.
And a lot of those things that she gave him were things that he actually had gotten back pretty early, correct?
Yes,
The information about an individual named Paul Abbott, who was someone who was at frequent person who would be at Jack in the Box, correct?
yes, yes.
But under her watch, no one interviewed the family.
I believe John Turney was at a time a point of contact with the family, and she would have had conversation with him. She also arranged for Sarah Turney and John Turney to come down and provide the DNA sample.
And actually, Mr. Turney brought them both down to that, correct?
He drove, yes.
Now, and I guess maybe that was a bad question on my part. There was no formal interview done of any family members at that point.
No, there was no formal interview of any family member prior to 2008.
So under Detective Murphy's watch, no family member was officially interviewed.
Yes,
No friends were officially interviewed.
correct,
No coworkers.
correct,
No one came to the house.
correct.
No one attempted to get that video.
I don't know why you're saying this, but I must say you probably have a reason to it. And maybe once this trial is over, I will go through what she claims on the podcast. Well, no, David is supposed to do that. Yeah. On a stream with someone. I can't remember. That, yeah. It sounds like Sarah has been talking a lot on her podcast about things that might not even have happened. That's my, yeah.
Correct.
Or phone records.
Also correct.
Now, you testified that you worked as a missing persons detective for a lot of cases. I'm guessing if you're getting 6-7 cases a day, sometimes.
I think it would be around 4,000 cases over the 7 to 8 years I was there, roughly half of what Summershoe did.
And I guess it would be, and if I'm wrong, you can tell me, but sometimes when teenagers run away, they're found very quickly.
Yes.
Sometimes they just want to go do something and they show back up.
Far and away, the majority of them are self-recovery.
Sometimes they return in a few hours,
Yes.
a few days,
Yes.
sometimes a few weeks.
Weeks to, I want to say 3 to 5 months. Outside of that, the interest is accelerated.
Sometimes when they leave, they contact family and make other living arrangements.
Absolutely.
Or sometimes they run away and something happens to them. That also happens, correct?
Yes.
You have worked with runaways before.
Yes, I have.
They're a vulnerable population.
Absolutely.
Over the years, you have heard about or worked sex trafficking cases.
I have.
Arizona is a corridor, one of the main corridors for sex trafficking.
Yes, fifth largest city in the United States, and the statistics to back it up.
And runaway population are known risk factors for sex trafficking.
Yes, they are.
People with mental health issues,
Also,
drug use.
absolutely.
Now, when you're investigating a runaway, it's really important to learn about their life, correct?
Yes.
You're trying to gain information to try to determine a pattern of life, I think was the word that you used.
That is typically what we call it. Yes.
Are they happy with their job? Are they happy with their friends? Are they happy with their boyfriend?
Yes.
Are they happy with their family?
Absolutely.
So you try to investigate the people in their life.
Yes.
You need to investigate the types of things that they're doing.
Yes.
You need to get to know the missing person because it can help you track them down.
Yes. Understanding the person is intelligence geared towards figuring out what happened to them.
So in 2008, when you get on September 2008, you look at this file and you realize that not a lot has been done, correct?
I believe I referred to it as my most anemic case.
And You know, sometimes I think in our interview, we discussed it. You talked about it's easy to sit back and Monday morning quarterback it, correct?
Yes, it is.
But isn't it true that the first few days, few hours are when a lot of that information is very important, correct?
For a concerned missing person, yes.
Well, Dad was really concerned. It was
Now, you mentioned
the
that
warrant.
when you got on the case, 7 years had passed, correct?
Yes, 2001 to 2008.
Almost 7.5 probably by the time a
September.
lot of the investigation was going on.
That's correct.
And what concerning to you was the fact that
David, you bought him, her, it a membership. Remember? Uh-huh.
no one had heard from her since May 24th.
Yes, yes.
Typically, it's your experience that if a runaway is unhappy with their living situation, that could change once they turn 18. They no longer have to come back to the home, correct?
Correct.
Now, you read letters that she wrote to her friends.
Yes.
You wanted to talk to these people to find out what they could tell you about her as an individual, correct?
I felt that was an appropriate course of action. Yes.
You look at her school records.
Yes.
These are the type of things you're interested in, her hobbies and stuff like that.
Yes. How did she spend her time? Who did she spend her time with?
Anything that might give you insight into where she may have went.
Yes.
And nothing told you she went to her aunt. Nothing like that phone call.
So the minute you noticed that stuff wasn't done, you started setting up interviews with family members, correct?
Yes. I'm not going to give up on a case because it wasn't done to my satisfaction.
You called coworkers,
I
contacted coworkers, sorry.
contacted coworkers again in that roundtable environment where we discussed concerning cases.
Neighbors.
Yes.
You started looking into Alissa herself.
Yes.
Again, we talked about the letters. You read letters. You reviewed her school records.
Yes.
She was a C student, I believe. You said she had a 2.29 GPA.
2.44 to 2.29. So C plus.
You discovered that she had an IEP.
I was told that she has an IEP. There are recordings from Paradise Valley High School suggesting that her IEP had expired and was not renewed.
When she was at Barry Goldwater, she was in classes, correct?
Yes, she had an IEP specific to math.
And actually reading also.
There was a concession made to add on reading because she had low scores in reading.
So if there's a concession, that would mean that her IEP included reading and math, correct?
That's correct. The resources they provided for her were specifically for her math.
All through middle school and elementary school, she had an IEP.
I'm not aware of her middle school.
Why is this so hard to answer? Why are you alluding and try to avoid answering direct questions? Jesus Christ.
You had learned that through your investigation that she had skipped school.
Oh, yes.
There was underage drinking,
Yes.
experimenting with drugs
Experimenting with marijuana specifically.
and other drugs. There was mention from other people that they're drugs.
There was
other drug
mention
use.
of mushrooms. My understanding of that situation was that she ate a mushroom found in a yard.
Okay. And there was also ecstasy mentioned.
Yes, that was mentioned.
There was information that
She ate a mushroom she found in a yard. Yeah, I would. Oh, that looks like a magic mushroom. Hum nom nom. Yeah, I had a few friends that did that, but they are definitely not a majority who even thinks about doing that.
she was engaging in risky behavior,
Specifically.
having sex with adults,
Yes, having sex with older men.
potential behavioral issues.
Specifically.
Hold on. Let's play that. Because I think he just said men plural.
There was information that she was engaging in risky behavior,
Specifically.
having sex with adults,
Yes, having sex with older men.
That was plural. She's 17. This guy knows about sex with older, and he specifically says men, not older boys, men. Did you find out who they were? Did you investigate them? What happened to them? Were any of them suspects? This case is pissing me off more and more.
Potential behavioral issues.
Specifically,
She's using drugs.
Push forward the.
Drugs are illegal. Drugs are
in
illegal.
summary,
Correct?
drugs
Okay.
are illegal. Yes,
She's having sex with adults. That's
Yes.
illegal for the adult, correct?
that is very illegal for the adult.
These are things that you learned while you were looking into her as a missing person, correct?
That is correct.
Now, you would agree, as a parent, these things could seem concerning.
I have 2 daughters.
I don't know. But this guy testified to older men without saying it was only alluded to or it was this and that. So my understanding, my theory, my speculation is enough of her friends said, oh, she had sex with older men. Enough of them said that or wrote that during an interview for him to know it and explain it as in older men, plural. And you know who he didn't mention? That the dad said it. He said, if the dad would have been the one who said she had sex with older men, he would have said it. Now, this might be in redirect, but this is cross-examination. So, if anything, this is the prosecution that should be objecting, and they don't.
I would use a word more strong.
Okay. One of the things you learned that she had a boyfriend, correct?
Yes,
Now, there are some information shared with you that Alissa and John were having issues or some conflict, correct?
there was information shared suggesting that. That's correct.
You had learned that Alissa was crying over John quite a bit.
Can you give me a specific reference to her crying over him?
Oh, you asshole, you know this.
I'm gonna have to look up. I only have it as a bait stamp, and I realized when you were doing your direct that you don't have bait stamps, you have regular. So it'll take me 1 second.
No problem.
It
A
is
supplement
going to be
number is
supplement 168.
168.
I believe. Let me see.
Yeah, that's a really weird answer that he said not older boys, as in 18, 19, older men.
Be under tape B.
That is really strange.
I have it if you want to.
If you have it handy.
You may.
Thank you, Let's Go, Brandon, for gifting membership to Lorraine. And Lorraine, that would be a renewal, I think. Welcome back, or keep being welcome.
Alissa says.
Sorry. Just if you refresh your
Read to-
recollection, you read
yes.
this off, and let me know if that refreshes your recollection.
Yes, this does. This is actually my supplement.
Yes. And so
Wait a minute, you asked about a definition, and it turns out it's your own. Jesus Christ.
That was a tape that you personally had reviewed, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And that was a conversation between,
Jessica Case and Alissa Turney.
and in that call, she references that, says that he makes her cry sometimes, correct?
Yes, John makes her cry sometimes.
There's information that you received through video from Mr. Turney that there was a fight between the two of them,
Yes.
which either occurred May 6th or May 16th.
I
That's what the videos say.
it was May 6th or May 16th. Yes.
So now I want to ask you about these two, I guess, the picture here, but these two exhibits. It would be exhibit 32 and 31.
The two VHS tapes from earlier today.
Yes. And the reference, I believe it is 122
I know. I thanked him.
and 123.
Oh,
Correct?
again, thank you.
This is
Now
123.
it's Rob Mill
This is the
who
tape
was gifted.
that you
Congratulations. Thank you so much,
received
Leslie
from Mr.
Brandon.
Turney
September 28th. That's correct.
when you went to the house.
That is no. I went to the house on the 12th. I returned to the house to pick up that tape.
Yeah, but this, you picked it up at the house. That's what I was
Yes.
saying. And on here, it says 5601 and Alissa and John Lockman.
Yes.
And then there's this tape that is also, this was found in the search warrant,
Yes.
51601, correct?
16 or 06, 56. It looks like a 16 to me. Correct.
And based on those two tapes, you don't know which one is the original, correct?
I cannot tell you that.
Thank you for the super chat, the shot dodger. I can't help you. That's up to the rest. Have you
Also evidence that was presented.
on this account put in that accept gifted memberships? You might have to do it on each and every account. Thank you so much. And let's go, Brandon. Gifting one more. Who gets it? Who gets it? Jody!
That you or you learned throughout this that she was cheating on her boyfriend, correct?
Oh, for fuck. Yeah. Again, after 2 to 3 hours, it starts buffering, even though it's buffered up by minutes.
Yes.
There was testimony from her sister that she had gotten.
Oh, for Jesus Christ. What's going on?
I'm going to object at this point, Judge. Lack of personal knowledge, you're saying?
I haven't heard the question yet.
Let's go, Brandon. Give
Well, maybe
one
approach, I
more
think.
to One Blessed Nana. Congratulations. Thank you. Let's go, Brandon. And they're up there again.
So after learning all that information about John and Alyssa's relationship, did you ever ask John about the specific instances that Sarah talked about?
No, it was Detective Summershoe who interviewed Lackman. I was reviewing it, watching the interview.
And while you're reviewing it, did you know about the information that Sarah had shared with you?
Yes, I did the interview with Sarah, so that information came in through me.
Well, the information you learned about Sarah happened in January 29th of 2009, correct?
Sarah was one of the earliest interviews.
Well, you spoke with Sarah several times, correct?
Yes.
The specific instances where she told you about And she testified about this, about the violence between
Violent
the two.
grabbing.
Yes, that happened on January 29, 2009.
That came, during a later interview.
When was the interview with Mr. Lackman? Do you remember?
Before January 29th.
So after learning that information, learning that he was violent with her, that there was bruises on her face, that he's potentially slammed her hand into a car, did you go and investigate and ask him about those things specifically?
No, I did not follow up on that. I had some.
You absolute buffoon. You have a guy that's been cheated on. That witnesses are testifying to you that he's been using violence, and you don't follow up.
Credibility issues with that statement.
You had credibility statements with what Sarah had said.
Yes.
She personally saw this.
Yes.
Because that was her testimony to you, is that she personally saw this, correct?
Yes.
So you didn't even bother asking him about it.
Lackman? No.
Yeah.
Okay, so now this cop says that Sarah isn't credible. Why are we here? Why the freaking frick are we here? Why is this a trial? This guy don't think Sarah is credible. And what mother...
You watched the video between the two of them having their fight? The one that happened on either 5/6 or 5/16?
The incident involving Alissa Turney and John Lackman, where she leaves the home following him, returns to the home, and throws the phone against the wall?
Yes, you've seen that incident, correct? Now, Alissa was working at Jack in the Box for about 6 months?
Approximately, yes.
You learned as part of your investigation that she wasn't happy with her job, correct?
No, I have the one statement between her and Jessica Case where she said the people at Jack in the Box were messed up or really weird.
And she hates working there. That's what she told her, correct?
That is the one statement.
That she hates working there.
Yes.
So you did learn at least some information that she didn't like her job.
I heard her espouse that complaint to her friend Jessica Case.
And so did you learn how often she got paid as part of your investigation?
I believe it was every 2 weeks there would be a check cut. It arrived on Friday evenings, typically dispersed over the weekend.
And so if she worked for about 6 months and it was every 2 weeks, would she have about 12 or 13 paychecks?
The math is correct.
And we'll get back to some of the phone records here in a second, but there was only 2 paychecks ever deposited into her account, correct?
That's the documentation that we've recovered would suggest that, yes.
Now, you also said that at some point you did a few search warrants. You submitted some search warrants and did some searches of some house, correct?
Yes, submitted search warrants. Pardon me. Yes.
Yes. And one was for the Turney home that they were renting in 2001 when Alissa left the runaway note.
Yes.
The other was a home that they had purchased frequently after, but the one they were living at in 2008, correct?
Correct.
And they were living at that place, and I would mean Sarah and Mike, in 2008 when the search warrant went through, correct?
Correct, when the service was performed.
Going into the first house in 2001, the house where they were living at in 2001. You guys entered that home?
Yes.
Were you present when that happened?
No.
You had people that were there working. I said, you said it was the homicide unit was there.
Yes, Detective Kenneth Porter, I believe.
And you reviewed their reports, and they sprayed with luminol?
Yes, they did perform a luminol process.
And that luminol is sprayed and it can detect bodily fluid, particularly blood?
Yes.
And no blood was found in the home?
No significant scene, no indication of a clean scene.
Cadaver dogs were brought to the home?
Okay, I looked it up, and Sarah Turney has a bachelor's degree in English language and literature. So, yes, she did finish high school and college, apparently.
Yes, both residences.
No alerts from the dogs? There was no alerts?
That is correct.
And typically, what is the dog looking for? What is the dog alerting to? Are you familiar with what the dog is alerting to?
Yes.
And what is that?
Decomposing human remains.
And that is something that happens almost immediately, correct?
The process begins when you stop breathing.
And obviously, the longer it's there, the more decomposition there is, correct?
Well, decomposition is the process of the earth reclaiming all the minerals and parts of your body. So eventually it will stop.
And the dogs didn't hit any areas of the house.
Nothing in the house, nothing in the backyard.
There was no physical evidence found in the house that a death had occurred, correct?
That is correct.
At some point, a car was searched, a vehicle, a truck. You tracked down a truck.
Okay, vehicles on the residence were searched at that time. You're referring to the 2001 Dodge pickup?
Yes.
Yes, I tracked that down to Nevada, Reno, Nevada, and searched it myself.
And just to kind of clarify that, are you suggesting that Mr. Turney drove to Nevada and sold that vehicle?
I'm not.
So the vehicle was found in Nevada. He sold it somewhere here in the valley.
That's correct. I believe it was the Scottsdale Air Park.
And cadaver dogs were also brought to that vehicle, correct?
No,
No, they were not.
no, I don't believe Reno had a cadaver dog.
Okay. But they searched the vehicle.
Yes, myself and Elaine Finley was the crime scene technician that
What
went.
did you guys do to that vehicle?
Searched it, recovered hair follicles, hair fibers, recovered some documentation related to Mr. Turney.
In the vehicle?
Yes.
No, you didn't find any blood.
No, no blood seen.
To this day, Alyssa's body has never been found.
That's correct.
No crime scene.
No crime scene has been established.
You can't tell us where Alyssa is,
No, I do not know where her remains are.
or you don't even know if she is dead, correct?
I am very confident that she is dead.
What you're confident about is not the question.
You may be confident, but she may not be dead, correct? You cannot be 100% sure that she is dead.
I do not believe in UFOs or abductions. I believe she is dead.
Objection.
And
That's just ridiculous. Object to that.
there's no physical evidence to support your statement, correct?
I do not have her body. That is correct.
There's no physical evidence to support your statement that she's dead.
I have evidence suggesting that this was a.
Physical evidence. You have physical evidence suggesting that she is dead.
I do not have her body. I do not have a physical human remain to show you and establish that she is dead.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the call. The call originated, and I'm referring to the 524 call. That originated after everything originated in Riverside, California, I believe. You're aware of that?
Yes, that's the May 24th, 2001, 5:02 a.m. call into the Turney home.
You have made reference to that call saying, we never found that call, correct? You searched all this evidence and there's no recording of that call, correct?
That is correct.
But there's no evidence, or no one has ever said that that call was ever recorded, correct?
That is correct.
Did you ever go to that location in Riverside?
No,
And that was a payphone outside either a Circle K or a 7-Eleven or something, correct?
nondescript. It wasn't a high profile Circle K. It wasn't anything that I recognized. It may have been a California brand.
But a gas station type
Yes,
store like that.
gas station, convenience store located right off the freeway.
Now, you don't know where that call was answered, correct?
It was answered inside the Turney home.
But whether that was done on a phone in the bedroom or a phone in the living room.
I don't see that that makes any difference, but I don't know which handset was picked up.
Okay. So are you familiar with how these recordings operate?
How the recording device operates? Yeah, I have familiarity with the technology. I do not know the make and model that was in use in 2001.
So you don't have the one that's specifically here, correct? The one
The
that
one
was
from
used
2001? I do not have that.
But you received information from, I believe, Sarah or other family members that that physical recording device was in the kitchen, correct?
In the kitchen, and for a time, there was actually a location outside the home that maintained it.
That was a different house, though, correct? That was
Yes.
at the Villa Rita house.
Yes.
The house on 34th
Son of a
Street
bitch.
where Alissa disappeared, that device was in the kitchen, correct?
That is correct. The device was attached to the main line through the kitchen.
And that device only worked, Sarah said, when the receiver was picked up.
That device worked when the phone was answered.
You don't know what that.
This is so dirty. This is so sneaky. He has convinced himself to the point that he doesn't care anymore about what the evidence actually shows. And remember, this guy is teaching classes in this area.
Devices. So how can you make that statement?
Well, I've reviewed literally hundreds of hours of phone calls where one person would be answering the call on one line and then pick up on another line.
Okay, but if you don't know where that original first person picked up, that could have been in the kitchen, correct?
That could have been in the kitchen, yes.
So you are aware of a device that records back in 2001 when I used a different receiver?
Yes, it's tied to the phone line. That's why it picks up the fax squeal.
No, I believe Sarah's testified that it was connected to that handset. It goes from the wall into the box. The receiver then goes into that box. And when you pick up the phone, there's a click. That was her testimony. Has she told you something differently?
She's not told me something differently. I have a different understanding of the technology.
You were unaware of this specific brand that was in their house in 2001?
Absolutely correct. I was not involved until 2008 and cannot reconstruct it, and have no opportunity to discuss it with anybody.
There were a lot of recordings and videos, correct?
Yes.
You personally didn't go through all of them.
No, I'd still be doing it.
Detectives' aides, officers assisted, volunteers,
Yes.
and they reviewed the tapes and the VCRs, the recordings.
Yes.
The officers that reviewed these recordings wrote supplements about the calls.
Yes, with the exception of the volunteers. The volunteers don't necessarily create supplements. If they find something, they will bring exceptional materials to us.
Now,
What? Who says civilians know what's important or not? Oh,
necessarily create supplements. If they find something, they will bring exceptional materials to us.
that was going to be my next point. The volunteers would then say, oh, I found something that's interesting, hand it to one of the detectives or yourself. Then you would review that and make a supplement, or the other detective would.
Almost exclusively to myself and Summershoe for our familiarity with the persons involved in the home.
But as case agent, you would be responsible to review all the reports that were written.
Yes.
In any of the tapes or videos found in the house, you never found any conversation where Mr. Turney admitted to killing Alissa, correct?
No, absolutely not.
In regard to video surveillance inside the home, in the vent, you learned through your investigation that Alissa was aware this camera was there, correct?
Yes, she became aware of it.
Now, you spoke with Sarah on several occasions.
Yes.
You reviewed the reports by other detectives.
Yes.
Did she ever once tell you that her dad told her that the camera was put up in a vent?
Objection, hearsay.
Impeachment.
Can I hear the question again?
Alissa never told you that her dad said that the camera was put up in the vent and that Alissa
You're
was not to
asking
know.
if Alissa told him?
Yes, I confronted her about it, and she said she told people.
Alyssa?
Sorry, Sarah. Sorry, I apologize, Sarah.
Okay, let's hear the question again.
Sorry. That Sarah told you that her dad said the camera was put up in the vent and that Alissa was not to know.
The witness may answer.
I do not recall that.
Now, I want to ask you about another statement that Sarah made in her interview. Now, you learned that at some point, Mike rented a Mustang, correct? And they went to California?
Yes, he and Sarah rented a Mustang. That was shortly after, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. And when was that, to your knowledge?
That was shortly after they had obtained the information suggesting the location of the call from California.
this same guy, when asked about did Michael at any point get to California, his testimony was, yes, that was not verbatim, that was what he alluded to or told us. Trying to innuendo out, well, that's just what he said. And all of a sudden, here's the evidence. Yeah, you knew that he went there.
And she had mentioned that she remembered going to the beach and malls, correct?
Correct.
But she also specifically told you that she went to the payphone and it was outside a Circle K or 7-Eleven.
Yes, I believe they drove up to it, did not exit, possibly took a photo of it, and then left.
Took pictures. Your dad took pictures of the phone booth and possibly the gas station.
That's my understanding, my recollection. If you're looking for something more precise.
She also told you that they were in that area where her aunt was, and she thought that her dad was staking out that location to see if Alissa was there, correct?
Yes.
Did you at any point search the aunt's house?
Now, I want to talk a little bit about
was
the
still
bank
alive when
records.
you
We
interviewed her.
discussed them a little bit. I
Motherfucker.
believe we have Exhibit 104 here. And Mr. Bailey went through this with you. You remember these records, correct?
Yes, I do.
Hit that AF button.
I'm looking for.
That's you again, right? That's not
That's,
me.
that's all me. I take my glasses off, I can read it. But. Now, these records here are from 4/26 to 10/5/01, correct?
That's true. They come in two separate statements. The dates for each statement are on the top right-hand corner. If you pull down a little bit, there you go.
Now, you referred to this, I believe, when asked when this 1860 was taken out, that essentially closed the account, but that's not true, correct?
That's not true. There's $25 left in the account. My understanding at the time that $25 is the minimum amount to maintain
did you
that
say
account. So it is still at that point
Jesus
active.
Christ.
The heart of it has been removed.
So on October 5th of 2001, the account, Alyssa's account was not closed.
Not closed.
Now, we discussed the 515 deposit. That was the $200 was a withdrawal, correct?
Yes.
And that there was a deposit here of $10.
Yes.
Do you have an opinion as to how that would occur?
The deposit, I believe that there was a check that was presented. Money was kept from the check. The remainder was deposited.
So potentially here, a check from Jack in the Box for $210.81. That would be, I want $200 back and put in the 1081.
Yes.
And that happened 2 days before she disappeared, correct?
Correct.
And then on 5/20/21, there was a deposit of $285.74, correct?
Yes, that would appear to be a full check with no remnant removed.
Are you aware if that was a check at all?
I'm not.
So when looking into this, you have no idea where that $285.74 came from, correct?
That is correct. My assumption is based upon the dollar amount, the odd dollar amount, prior activity. It appears to be appropriate for a check.
But you don't know who cashed that check or deposited that check.
No, these records are from 2001. I'm not involved until 2008. I cannot tell you who dropped that. I did not recover a slip identifying that.
Now, you received other records from Desert Schools, correct?
Yes.
And those records were the records that started the account, I believe, in May of 2000.
Yes, the origination of the account?
Yes.
Yes.
And there's actually more records that show.
Jody, family first, your economy first. I'm fine. Nobody has any obligations to give or to super chat or to become a member if you can't afford it. If you feel that it may put a strain on your economy, don't do it. I'm almost ordering you, don't do it. Or if you just you being here, watching, liking, commenting in the chat, good enough for me. Family first. Unless your family is shit, then screw them and enjoy the company of people you like. But if you have a family that you love, family first. Okay?
But the records then go to the same last day here of 10/5/01, correct?
That's correct. When somebody says that's the end of the account, it is still open. However, it has been depleted of funds.
And actually, that account accrued money over several years, correct? At some point.
Yes, it continued to accrue.
Because this is a savings account where a 3% return or something, correct?
So the account was open for
2.75.
years?
Okay. In reviewing those records from May of 2000 to May of 2001, was there any other deposit that was consistent with Alissa cashing her 12 checks or 13 checks at this Desert School account?
When you say depositing, does it appear that she's taking her check from Jack in the Box and depositing a full amount or a significant partial amount?
Any of it?
Any amount? No.
No. So there doesn't look to be. So we know that she was working.
Whoa. Only 2 out of 12 or 13 checks were deposited? Now, okay. Through testimony, she had a thing about pot. She had a 2-year younger friend who also liked pot. That might have been where the money went. But it can allude to she was saving up. And we know that from the previous phone calls that Aunt, whatever, Janice, whatever, You can come here anytime you want. It's more and more probable, according to the evidence presented, sure enough to end your whatever, and then something happened. We don't know, but it's more and more probable, in my opinion, based on the evidence in trial.
Working for about 6 months.
Yes.
She obviously would be receiving checks,
Yes, she was being paid.
and those checks are not going into her bank account, correct?
Not in any significant dollar amount. She's keeping cash on hand, it appears.
There's no actual deposits from any checks, correct? Except for these two on 5/15 and 5/21.
Yes.
So all the other checks that she would have gotten, the ones from April, the ones from March, the ones from February, the ones from January, she did not attempt to deposit in this account.
Correct.
In your investigation, did you learn if she had any other bank account?
I'm not aware of any other bank account attached to her name or social security number.
And that is something that you guys looked into.
Yes.
You looked into credit reports to see if she had bought a house or opened a credit card in her name. You actually
Access to any line of credit, Visa, MasterCard, debit card, Discover card, access to any sort of vehicle funds. She's not made any significant purchase of real estate or real property.
you actually looked into see potentially if she used the name of her dead friend Stacy.
Yes, we ran Alissa. We ran alterations of her name, different spellings of her name, subtle changes to her date of birth that she may have made. Stacy Seeley, combinations of Katie Rothweiler, Charity, anything I could come up with. Even her father's name of Strom.
Okay. Now, you're aware that there are ways to cash checks without depositing them to a bank account, correct?
Yes, that is apparently a booming industry these days.
There's check cashing.
Yes.
Sometimes grocery stores will let you buy groceries and give you the money back of the check sometimes, depending on who has the.
That is a fading practice, and it's typically restricted to an institution that has a familiarity with the checks that they are cashing.
Yes, and that would, but back in 2001, that was more common than it is today.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that.
Sometimes you can go to the bank that the check is drawn on and get it cashed there.
Very often.
So it looks like, at least based on those two checks, her paychecks would be anywhere between $210, $285, maybe a little more or less, depending on how many hours she worked that week.
Yes, I remember calculating how many hours she worked and her wage, and it was within that range. She was fairly consistent with her hours.
So if she had 10 or 11 other checks, she could potentially have anywhere from $2,000 to $2,200 in cash.
Correct.
And as we talked about before, because her dad was depositing money into this account and he opened the account, she may not known of how much money was actually in this account.
Yes, I understand your point. My counterpoint would be that she is receiving deposit slips.
That's
She is
for
signed
redirect,
deposit slips. She's
asshole.
presented identification. I cannot say that bank teller
defense
gave the
is
slip to her and that she read it.
So her dad was there with her through all three of those transactions that you're referring to, correct?
Every transaction that we have found involving Alissa had her father in some capacity.
So it's potential that he would have received that and she may not have known how much money was in there.
Absolutely possible.
Yeah, but I do believe that one of the bosses there said that they typically didn't cash checks at Jack in the Box.
Now, I want to ask you a little bit. I don't want to tell me what Chris Ridenour had told you, but at some point you learned that Mr. Ridenour had written a letter, correct?
Correct.
And in that letter, do you know about when that letter was written?
From memory, I do not. It was shortly after Alyssa's disappearance.
Pretty close in time to when she was disappeared, correct?
Yes.
And I believe, I don't know, maybe it was Detective Summershoe, if it was you, but they're saying that this letter was asked to be written by Mr. Turney, correct?
That is correct.
But in this letter, and again, not going through it, his trying to get the urgency that something's wrong with his daughter, correct? He wants police to investigate. The purpose of this letter is to get police to investigate, correct?
Yes.
And that was early on in the case.
Yes.
Now, I also want to ask you about some other investigation that you did as things progressed. At some point, you received information from numerous different people, and without going into it, specifically someone in Connecticut who may have seen Alissa, or somebody that was claiming that Alissa was living in Connecticut, correct?
Can you tell me the time frame of that supplement?
I believe it was in 2000. There was a man who contacted you. He told you that his neighbor.
Speaking about his female neighbor. Yes.
You remember that?
Yes.
You guys investigated that.
Yes.
Went and got her DNA.
Yes.
Turns out it wasn't her.
Yeah, absolutely was not her. Yes.
You also got an email from Sarah Turney in August 10th of 2015, where someone had said that there was a woman by the name of
Sustained.
Your Honor, it goes into his lack of investigation. He didn't even go out and check on this person.
The objection was sustained.
Do you remember getting an email about this individual in California?
California, there's going to be more than one individual in California that was brought to the attention of the Phoenix Police Department, especially following the airing of that ABC program.
And specifically, there was information given to you that somebody believed that maybe this was Alissa.
Sustained.
Your Honor, this does not go to the spirit of the matter. Did you ever go talk to this person, ever find out who that person was?
No, it was resolved through other more practical means.
What?
No, it's you just believed it wasn't her. What other practical means?
The ability to substantiate that person through police databases, TransUnion, other social aspects.
But where in your report does it say that you did those things?
I don't necessarily document the lack of information. And again, I apologize. There are several persons that were brought to our attention that were simply not practical. We had people reporting to us that they saw that 17-year-old girl. They swear it was a 17-year-old girl and she was with an adult female. When that program aired, she was not 17. If she were alive at that time, it was 8 years later. So I did not expend effort in those cases.
But you actually looked into that one where Mr. Strom's wife had told you that she saw Alissa.
Sustained.
Your Honor, may we approach? I need to make a record.
I'll let you make a record at the end of the session today.
This is it. I have no further questions at this point.
Okay.
Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our evening recess. I'll ask you to be back at 10:30 on Monday. Remember, we're not together tomorrow. Please take everything with you as you leave the courtroom. Please remember the admonition. Have a nice weekend. We'll see you at 10:30 on Monday.
See if there is anything worthwhile.
You're free to step down, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Let the record show the presence of counsel and the defendant. Jury's not present. Anything for the record from the state?
Yes, Your Honor.
From the state?
No, Your Honor.
Anything for the
No, Your
record? Anything for the record from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. Now, I find it troublesome that the rules here are not being followed. The witness here has testified that he did something or didn't do it because of a reason. This hearsay information has a clear exception under the rule. The rule is the effect on him. So the jury should be able to hear what information he learned before he decided to omit it and say that it didn't happen. This is a continual thing. It's the same thing with Heimer. It's the same thing with this witness. The detective has chosen a narrow path on how he's decided to investigate this case. By limiting these questions, you are not allowing us to let the jury know about this. This hearsay exception is there for a reason. It's there because it allows testimony like this to determine and let the jury know why someone did or didn't do something.
If you want to ask him that whether or not he investigated information that was provided to him in a letter or in a phone call or in an email, you can ask him whether he investigated that information. As to what the specific claims were in the email or the phone call, that is hearsay. I hear your argument. I understand your argument. I disagree with everything that is said to him is fair game because it had something to do with his investigation. If your claim is that you are not asking for the content to be introduced for the truth of the matter asserted, then the content is irrelevant and the effect on his investigation is relevant, and you are free to ask him that. You and I disagree on this issue, and I've made my ruling and you've made your record. Anything else you want to
Just further that I believe by limiting the defendant's right to a full trial, you are affecting his constitutional right to a fair trial. I believe that, and we will be making an offer of proof on Heimer as well as a directed verdict corpus delicti, and I will have that hopefully to the court tomorrow. If not, it'll be over this weekend.
Okay. So on Monday, we're going to start with redirect of the officer, and then the state's going to rest.
That's correct. That's correct.
That's it.
Okay. So counsel, I'm going to ask you to be here at 10. At 10 on Monday. We'll cancel that. You can just be here at 10:15. So we'll finish up with the officer, and then we'll
2001.
figure out
She was,
after the.
Okay, Alissa Turney was reported runaway, missing, whatever, in 2001. That the first two officers handling the case did jack shit. Then these two officers we've been listening to started investigating in 2008, and quite soon started to accuse the father, as I understand it. But charges towards the ending of Alissa didn't happen in 2008, 2009, 2010. It occurs now, 15 years later. And apparently, we just heard the entirety of the state's case. Yeah. Okay. Link to the Rumble. We are doing Serial Killer Sunday. It's a Rumble only because YouTube doesn't like those things anymore, apparently. Not at least showing what an actual trial is regarding a serial killer. So, thank you all for showing up. I will be back on Monday, tomorrow, with the end of the prosecution's case, apparently, after redirect. And then it's this, let's see here.
Rule 20 is argued. We'll figure out what's going to come next. I assume if you're planning on calling any witnesses other than your client, you'll have them here on Monday morning.
I guess the other question is if, I don't know how likely that is, but if the defendant chooses not to testify, would we roll straight into closing arguments on Monday?
Probably Monday after lunch. Yeah.
So it's redirect Monday morning. Oh God, please don't testify, Michael. That's a huge mistake. Yes, Medita Finn, we are going on Rumble. I will end this. I have to take a quick run and get back. So within 4 or 5 minutes, the Rumble stream will start. Okay? Thank you all for showing up. And yeah, you all know the rest. Replay crew, like, and everything. I'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you. Until later on Rumble. Dun, 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 dun.